Hi guys, this is Hirosaki. This story is all about what if Naruto became a vampire. Naruto, the hated Kyuubi jinchuuriki, is sent to a school for monsters to complete his education before he can return to Konoha. But in a place filled with monsters he wonders just who the true monster is. Welcome aboard! Chapter 23, An Awfully Long Wait. Monday morning had come again. As he put his uniform on, he thought bleakly about what it would be like seeing the three girls in homeroom. Mizore he wasn't really worried about, she never said anything in class anyway and he couldn't imagine her causing a scene. By comparison he could easily picture Kurumu or Mocha making huge scenes. Then again, he could also picture both of them trying to pretend he didn't exist. That was probably the best he could hope for now that he'd rejected their feelings. Seeing Mocha would definitely be the hardest part of dealing with the girls. In his head he understood that she really hadn't chosen to sleep with Jin. The worst thing she had done was to discount his pleas and ignore him for those 2 weeks. That he could have easily forgiven. But no matter what his head understood, in his heart she had betrayed him. He really couldn't look at her anymore without being reminded of the two of them lying on that table. It was hard for him to trust others and he had trusted her completely. And even though he knew the circumstances he couldn't make himself just get over it. The sight of them, two of them, had shattered his heart and he didn't know how to put the pieces back together again. As he put on his jacket, he thought yet again about the Kyuubi's offer. It scared him how appealing it sounded. To just let the darkness win, to finally give up on his humanity and really turn into a monster, not just on the outside, but on the inside. He knew he was already becoming a monster, his hatred, his anger, and his cruelty just kept getting stronger. Jin was just more proof of how easy it was becoming for him to do horrible things to the people he did not care about. It was caring that was hard for him. The idea that he could just stop caring had a strong attraction for him. He understood that if he said yes and took that last step it was forever. If he let the darkness consume him, he would lose his humanity, and he would never have the strength to regain it. Despite everything he'd suffered, all the pain and betrayals, he still wasn't ready to just give up. He still had at least a sliver of hope that even if he could not gain love maybe he could find just a little bit of happiness. He wanted to still have precious people in his life, people who mattered to him. He didn't want to be completely alone. He didn't want to stop caring about everything but himself. But love? Trust? No, those things only led to pain. He was willing to have some people be precious to him, people he would care about and protect, but he would not love or trust anymore. As he went down to the lobby, he was surprised to see many of the others looking rather nervous about something. He understood when he stepped outside. There, waiting patiently, was Mocha. But not the sweet innocent Mocha. The boys weren't crowding around to tell her how much they loved her. They were dashing past with their heads held down. They wanted nothing to do with the scary vampire. For her part, she seemed to not even notice them. Good morning, Uzumaki Naruto. Mocha? What are you doing here? Since we share the same homeroom, do you object to walking to class together? I ask only to walk beside you, nothing more. He stared at her. Mocha, I meant everything I said. I have not forgotten Uzumaki Naruto. You stated that you could not be with me or love me. Does that also mean you wish to never speak to me again or deal with me in any manner? To be honest, I kind of figured that since we were broken up you wouldn't want anything to do with me. That's sort of the way it usually works, isn't it? She shook her head slightly. You are among the very few whom I have a connection to. I have no wish to completely sever the ties between us. I understand that you no longer desire me to be your lover or girlfriend. I am ready to accept whatever role you are willing to grant me. He just had to stare at her. He really didn't know what to say. He'd expected either to have the teenage Mocha ignore him or else have her hanging on him pleading for him to reconsider. He scratched the back of his head. I guess we can still hang out, I suppose. Just so long as you understand I don't feel anything for you anymore. Nothing at all? She asked coolly. Nope, nothing. I see. Before he could do anything, she grabbed him by his jacket and yanked him forward. Her mouth pressed down onto his in a savage and passionate kiss. After a few seconds she let go of him and stepped back smoothly. Looking at her she seemed as calm and detached as she had a moment ago. What the hell was that? He'd meant to sound outraged, but somehow his voice came out kind of hollow. A slight grin touched her lips. You are blushing. That's not the point. Why did you kiss me? I wished to see whether or not you truly had no more feelings for me. I told you I don't care about you anymore. Liar. A low growl came out of his throat. If you're trying to play some stupid game with me. She held out a hand and he stopped. This is no game to me, Uzumaki Naruto. It is entirely serious. You have told me your stance, that you care nothing for me. Now let me tell you mine, I still love you and so does my other self. I realize how deeply you have been hurt and that you are sincere when you say you do not want to be with me. I am willing to accept that, for now. But you should be aware I am ready to do whatever I must and wait as long as is required to one day be worthy of your trust again. You've got an awfully long wait ahead of you. He said dryly. That is all right, she seemed just a little amused. Vampires have extremely long lifespans. He looked at her for a while before finally answering. Don't try kissing me again. He headed toward school. She fell into step beside him. She made no attempt to hold his hand or put her arm around his. They walked together in a silence that was not comfortable. As they did, Naruto noticed the wide berth all the other students were giving the two of them. This reminds me of that time with the djinn. He said quietly. This is how I have always been treated in my true form. She looked over at him. As I told you many times, those boys who worship my other self were always bound to react this way. I never expected anything else. Why are you the one here right now? Naruto asked. She quirked an eyebrow. Did you not say you could not bear to look at my other self? Is it not easier for you to deal with me rather than the other Mocha? That's true, he admitted. It is a lot easier for me to talk to you. But won't this ruin how everyone else sees you and the other Mocha? They are not the ones who matter to me. As they approached the academy, there was a large crowd of boys gathered out in front. As they approached, they could see a certain girl dancing and jumping about to the approval of her audience. Yahoo! Kurumu shouted. Who do you love best of all? You! All the boys chorused. Seeing this, Naruto was greatly relieved. I'm glad to see Kurumu has gotten over me so quick. I guess what I said didn't hurt her that bad after all. Mocha glanced over at him. You really are an idiot sometimes. She muttered under her breath. He looked at her. Did you say something? I said you really have it right sometimes. She has obviously put you behind her. In the classroom, most of the students were staring nervously in Mocha's direction. Mocha, Nikanome-sensei, spoke a bit uncomfortably. You do realize that the first rule of this school is to maintain a human disguise at all times. Why are you in your true form? I have decided to attend class in this form for the foreseeable future. My reasons are my own. She lifted an eyebrow. Will that be a problem? As she'd expected, Nikanome quickly shook her head. Occasionally there were certain benefits to being an intimidating vampire. From the back of the class there was loud high-pitched laughter. Oh, Kito, you are so funny. I just love a man with a good sense of humor. Naruto looked over and saw Kurumu leaning out of her seat to flirt with 4 boys who were ogling her breasts. Wow, she sure got over me fast. I guess she wasn't really that in love with me after all. Still, I'm glad she's alright now. Now then class, we have something very important to take care of today. With the school's annual cultural festival and other activities coming up, we need to work hard to organize all our efforts. Therefore, today we will elect a class representative to join the Academy School Committee. Would anyone like to nominate a candidate? In the back row a girl raised her hand. Yes, Ms. Orr? I nominate Uzumaki Naruto. Nani? Naruto hadn't really been paying attention. I too think Uzumaki Naruto would make a fine class representative. Mocha said. Everyone else fell into line supporting the nomination. Naruto was about to object when he recalled the headmaster mentioning something about suspecting a member of ANTI thesis being on the school committee. He needed to find the leaders of that group and expose them. I haven't had any luck so far, maybe this will be a good way to investigate. Does anyone else want to nominate a candidate? I nominate Kurumu-chan. A boy said. Be quiet. Kurumu snapped at him. The boy immediately began to whimper like a hurt puppy. Please ignore him, sensei. Well then, if there are no other nominations, it looks like Naruto will be our class representative. Nekonomiya sensei said. Congratulations. Yukari was staring at the adult Mocha with an open mouth. Oh, that's right, Naruto remarked. You've never seen Mocha in this form, have you? You need not be afraid, Yukari. Mocha said. Though I am a different and more serious Mocha from the one you know, I still remain your friend and will not harm you. Yukari was taking it all in, the long flowing silver hair, the blood-red eyes, and the sense of ominous power that hung over her. I think that I'm in love. I love you. Yukari leapt and tried to glomp onto Tomoka's chest. She ended up lying face down in the grass with a bump rising on her head. Do not try that again. Mocha calmly sat down at the outdoor table next to Naruto. Rubbing the back of her head, Yukari sat down as well. I thought you said you weren't going to hurt me? That does not mean you may grab onto my breasts as you did with the other Mocha. The only one I will permit to do that is Naruto. He immediately turned a deep red. They weren't seated long before Kurumu came past leading 7 or 8 boys. The queen with her court. She trailed past their table talking and laughing and making a point not to look at them. That blue-haired slut. Yukari said angrily. How dare she do something like that? It's all right, Yukari, Naruto said as he began to eat. She won't be eating with us anymore. Really? That's great. And since you two are finally eating together again, that means everything is back to normal, right? No, Mocha said quietly. I am afraid Naruto and I are no longer a couple, we are. She hesitated and looked over at him questioningly. He thought about it. Friends, we can try and be friends. What? But didn't you two spend Saturday making sweet love? What went wrong? Did that jerk Jin do something? A lot happened over this weekend, Yukari. Naruto said. I'll tell you about it later. Some of it I will. Following class, Naruto reported to his first meeting of the Academy School Committee. Greetings, an older student with glasses greeted him. He had a friendly smile. I am Kaneshiro Hokuto, president of the Academy School Committee. Hello, I am Uzumaki Naruto, class representative from freshman class 3. I have heard of you, Naruto-kun, you've made quite a reputation for yourself. You should know, we have never had a member of the student police committee join us before. We are all quite honored, though a few members are also a bit nervous. Naruto-kun? Yeah, I've noticed that the police committee has that effect on people. Naruto smiled at him. Are you of the ones I make nervous? Not at all. Actually, I admire you for your efforts to defeat ANTI thesis. Is that so? Hokuto nodded. Yes, that group is determined to spread violence and chaos throughout our precious academy. I am determined to stand firm against them and the threat they represent. I hope you don't think it sounds silly, but I dream of changing this school one day. I want the school to achieve real peace, and I hope that the school festival will help bring that peace a good deal closer. You're an idealist then? Hokuto nodded. I hope you don't find that silly. Not at all. Everyone should have dreams and work to make them come true. Really, and what are your dreams? Naruto gave him a wide smile and answered in a friendly voice. My dreams are none of your fucking business. Startled, Naruto saw anger flash in the other boy's eyes for just a second. The friendly mask came back up again. I see, I apologize if my question offended you. No problem, and just between us, I don't think you'll need to worry much longer about anti thesis. Really? May I ask you how you can be so certain? Well, everyone will know about it by tomorrow anyway. He spoke quietly. Kyuubi has discovered one of their leaders. He will be making an arrest within the next hour. I'll need you to keep that secret, of course. Of course. Well, I guess I'll see you inside. Naruto headed into the building. Yes, I'll be there in just a bit. What was that? Hokuto wondered. Was he telling me the truth? If it was true, why would he tell me even if I am the president of the committee? But why would he tell me something like that if it was a lie? Was it a joke? Was he trying to impress me? He had to decide what to do with this possible information. Should he act on it or not? As president, if he failed to show up for the meeting, it would look suspicious. But there might be another way to deliver a warning to Mako and Kiria. He waved over a representative who had just arrived. Mizuki, he whispered to him. I have a job for you. As Mizuki quickly departed, he did not notice as a crow took to the air and began to follow him. As the meeting ended and the various members went their own ways, none of them noticed as crows and rats began to trail them. When Naruto finally got back to his room, he saw a crow waiting outside his window. He opened the window to allow the bird to enter. Once it was inside, there was a puff of smoke as the hinge dropped and the shadow clone again became a copy of himself. Anything interesting? The original asked. Maybe. The clone answered. Show me then. The clone vanished with a puff of smoke and the original immediately got all the memories of the surveillance. As soon as he'd been chosen for the school committee, he'd wanted to follow all the members and see if he could find anything suspicious about any of them. Following all of them with shadow clones would have been difficult, but rats and crows were common and drew no suspicion. Going over the clones' memories, he smiled. This might be something. Chapter 24, Your Future. In the village of Konoha. You wish to see me, Hokage-sama? Jiraiya noted that the Hokage seemed to be in an unusually positive mood. I did indeed, Jiraiya-san. I have just received a most encouraging report and wanted to share it with you. He handed the file over. As soon as Jiraiya saw who the report was on, he read with interest. 3 tails? He's already accessed that much power since I visited him? The Hokage nodded. At this rate, it seems likely he will have accessed the Kyuubi's full power within a year. Hokage-sama, please limit your expectations. While it is certainly surprising he could gain this much power in so short a time, we cannot expect this rate of growth to continue. Each new tail increases his power level exponentially. The 2-tail state is twice as powerful as the 1, the 3-tail state is twice as powerful as the 2. As the sheer volume of chakra increases, he will find it more and more difficult to maintain control. Nevertheless, it now seems clear that my decisions regarding him were correct. Both by sending him to that academy and having that seal placed on him, he has been motivated to acquire the Kyuubi's power. That is what scares me, Jiraiya said. He's definitely motivated, all right. You still have concerns about his loyalty? Damn right I do. That kid has no reason to love us, just the opposite. Like I already said, Kami help us if he ever gets that seal removed. I have faith in the loyalty created by the seal. I also have faith in your unquestioned skill. He will serve Konoha because there is no other option for him save death. However, I agree with you that it would be best if he wanted to serve of his own free will. There's no chance of that now. I am not so certain. So far, he has only seen the negative aspects of serving this village. Perhaps it is time he were shown some of the positives. He is 16 and of an age to both inherit and marry. I will authorize you to reveal his identity to him and what I intend once he returns. Jiraiya looked at the Hokage in surprise. Are you sure, Hokage-sama? The Hokage looked back also surprised. You are the one who has been arguing for more humane treatment. I thought you would have supported this idea. I just think it would be better to wait until his return to the village. Finding out the truth of his heritage will be quite a lot to take in. True, and hopefully it will provide him with even greater motivation. In addition to taking certain documents with you, you will be escorting someone. Naruto was sitting at a small desk at the Student Police Committee's headquarters. In front of him were 3 student personnel files. One was of the Student Committee President Hokuto, one was of Class Representative Mizuki, and the last was of a mysterious third-year student named Kiriya. Hokuto and Mizuki are both definitely members of ANTI Thesis, and given Hokuto's position he's probably one of their leaders. Let me arrest them and find out what they know. Kyuubi frowned at him. What is your reason for suspecting them? The second I met Hokuto there was something about him I didn't trust. I've been wearing one sort of mask or another all of my life. I can spot them easily and I knew Hokuto had one. I insulted him and he let it slip for just a second. Beneath that cheery and wholesome image is someone with a whole lot of anger. And that is when you set your little trap? Naruto nodded. The fact that he had this Mizuki deliver a message to someone is proof that all 3 of them are members of ANTI Thesis, and I'll bet that Hokuto and Kiriya at least are high-ranking members. Kyuubi considered it, and regretfully shook his head. I am afraid it is not enough to arrest Hokuto or Mizuki. Why not? Naruto said frustrated. You arrest students with nothing but suspicion all the time. I bring you real evidence and you won't let me touch them? Hokuto and Mizuki are members of the Academy Student Committee. Unfortunately, this places them in a category similar to the faculty. If we were to arrest them without significant evidence, the student committee would come after us and the headmaster might order us to disband. I will not risk this organization for any reason. Let me talk to the headmaster and tell him what I have. I'm sure he'll okay my arresting them after that. Unfortunately, the headmaster is not currently at the academy. When he returns, I will inform you. Talk to him by all means. If he gives his blessing, you are free to do as you like. But until then you may not touch them. How long until he gets back? I have no idea, he often disappears for weeks at a time. Well, that's just great. I finally get a break and I can't do anything. You are free to arrest this Kiriya. Naruto shook his head. I sent out some of my disguised shadow clones to keep an eye on him. He has disappeared. He hasn't gone to class and no one has seen him since yesterday. So, the one I can arrest I can't find. The ones I can find I can't arrest. It sounds like a comedy routine. You are free to continue with your investigations until the headmaster returns. But you are not to touch either of them unless I okay it. Great, he muttered. Through the open door Kito entered. Naruto has a visitor. The dark-haired woman frowned as Mocha entered the room on her heels. Mocha? What are you doing here? I was curious why you did not meet me this morning and why you were not at school. He quickly closed the files that were on his desk. I'm in the middle of an investigation. I don't have time to waste on classes right now. She glanced down at his desk. I see, and of course you no longer trust me. You did tell me once though that you had to pass your classes. If you miss too many of them you may be in danger of failing. That's not a problem, Naruto said. The police committee members get a free ride as far as grades go. I cannot even show up and I'll still pass everything with a B. That is absolutely necessary in order for us to maintain the peace at this academy. Kito said in annoyance. Anyway, when I was first told about it I decided to keep attending class as I didn't want any special treatment. He looked directly at Mocha. I also wanted to see you as much as I could. But now I think I'll stop attending, though I'll still go to club and have lunch with you and Yukari. Free here on out my priority is to gain more power as fast as I can. So, you will be spending the majority of your time training with Kyuu or working on your investigation? Mocha asked. That's right, so we won't get to see each other very much from now on. I see, Mocha turned to Kyuu. In that case I wish to join the student police committee. Say what? What? Naruto said stunned. No way. Absolutely not. That is not your choice, Kito said coldly. Kyuu is our leader and he alone decides who is a member. You would not be here otherwise. Kyuu looked over at Mocha carefully. Why should I allow you to join? I think that fairly obvious, she said coolly. You pride yourselves on the fact that only the most elite are permitted into your group. I am a vampire, the most elite of all monsters. I wouldn't say that, but there is certainly no denying that you are near the very top. If I allow you to join, I expect you to carry out any orders I give you and be an active member of the police committee. Now wait just a minute. Naruto tried to intervene. Very well, however I expect to be Naruto's partner on any investigations or assignments you may require of him. Kyuu simply nodded, not surprised in the least by her request. That's fine, welcome to the student police committee. Where have you two been? Yukari asked as they had lunch. We have been busy with work on behalf of the student police committee. Mocha replied. What? Yukari said in surprise. I knew Naruto was a member, but since when did you join? Since this morning, Naruto has decided to stop attending classes and concentrate instead on training and his duties within the police committee. I decided to join in order to be able to assist him. So, neither of us will be attending class anymore. What? You're not going to be in school anymore? She seemed on the verge of tears. But I'll die of loneliness without you too. It's not that bad, Yukari. Naruto tried to calm her. We don't have any classes in common anyway. I'll still come here for lunch every day and I'll still go to the club, so we'll still see each other about as much as we do now. That news seemed to make Yukari feel much better. Several tables over there was a loud, oh, as Queen Kurumu's court marveled at the way she was bouncing up and down in her seat. There was also a stir coming from the opposite direction. Who is that? Wow! What a beauty! Is she a new student? Please marry me. So, is the old guy her dad? What? An outraged voice called out. I will have you know I am none other than the legendary Jiraiya, famed Toad Sage and master of the ninja arts. Can you introduce us to your daughter, sir? Many similar pleas followed. The second he'd heard that voice, Naruto's head had snapped around. Sure enough, that old pervert bastard was walking towards him. I really am Kami's chew toy, aren't I? He was so upset at the sight of Jiraiya he barely notices the young woman who was nervously walking behind him. What does he want? Mocha said angrily. Probably to tell me the Hokage needs me to donate a kidney or something. Naruto eyed the two of them as they came near. He finally noticed the girl. She obviously had to be someone important. She was wearing a beautiful silk kimono that was a light lavender with a pattern of various flowers. Her hair was a dark blue and it was done up, her eyes had no pupils and were of a lavender a shade or two lighter than her kimonos. Looking at the girl, there was something vaguely familiar about her. When she saw him looking directly at her, she began to blush and press her index fingers together. She seemed very shy. Naruto couldn't deny she was very cute. "Naruto," Jiraiya boomed out. "Good to see you again. What do you want, pervert?" Jiraiya's smile fell and he sighed. "Still angry, I take it? What was your first clue? So, what do you want?" Jiraiya's eyes were drawn to the exotic beauty sitting at Naruto's side. "Who is this? Would she happen to be your girlfriend?" The girl in the kimono flinched a bit at hearing that. "I am Akashi Yamoka and I am Naruto's former girlfriend and current friend." She eyed Jiraiya menacingly. "You should know I will not allow anyone to harm him." "Harm him?" Yukari asked. "I thought they were friends." "No," Naruto said. "We are definitely not friends. Now, no need to be so hostile, kid. I'm here to help you." "That's what you said last time, you bastard." Jiraiya sighed. "I realize you don't really trust me, but I am here on orders from the Hokage. We received a report that you recently entered the three-tailed state." "Damn the headmaster. I thought he was supposed to be helping me." That is the whole reason I'm here, right? You want a powerful weapon." He glanced at the girl standing behind Jiraiya. Through the entire conversation she had been shyly looking at him. Who is she and what is she doing here? Jiraiya grinned and motioned her forward. Well, she is a very big part of why I'm here. The Hokage thinks it would be wise for you to see that serving Konoha will not simply be a labor. He wants you to understand that you will be given a high place within the village and given many considerations. Now I believe you two have met before." The girl took this as her cue and gave Naruto a deep and graceful bow. It was only too obvious that whoever this girl was, she was very cultured and refined. "Naruto-san," she said in a low and gentle voice. "I am so very happy to see you again. I always wondered if you were safe and am very glad to see that you are." He stared at her, feeling a bit embarrassed. "I'm really sorry, but have we met?" Crushing disappointment filled her face. You don't remember me?" "I know it was a long time ago and we didn't really know each other long, but..." She looked down and began pressing her fingers together again. Something about her stance or the way she was pressing her fingers awakened a memory. "Hey, I think maybe I do remember you. Were you in my class at the Ninja Academy? You had short hair back then and wore this big beige jacket, right?" Her head came up again and bright smile lit her face. "That's right," she said happily. "You do remember me then. I'm so glad." "Yeah, well, I just remember a little. I was only there for a month." He had only the vaguest memory of a dark, quiet weirdo who would stare at him while pressing her fingers together. "I am sorry, but I don't remember your name." "Well, in that case, let me formally introduce the two of you," Jiraiya said. "Uzumaki Naruto, this is Hyuga Hinata, Jonin, an accomplished medic nin, eldest daughter of the 5th Hokage and the designated heir to the Hyuga clan. She is also your future wife." For just a second that last word hung in the air. "What?" Mocha jumped to her feet, furious and radiating killer intent as well as powerful amounts of demonic force. "What?" Yukari jumped up, clutching her wand and glaring angrily at the newcomer. "What?" Mizore jumped up from behind a bench and spat out her lollipop. "What?" From several tables over, apparently succubus have very good hearing. Kurumu leapt up and screamed, scaring her adoring slaves. Naruto gulped and looked about nervously. "You're really trying to get me killed today, aren't you?" Chapter 25, To Forgive and Not Forgive. "How is everything?" She looked at him hopefully. "Delicious," he told her honestly. "It's been a long time since I had curry chicken." The rice, the steamed vegetables, all of it is great. Thank you for making this for me. Hinata had been provided a room in the girls' dormitory for the night and she had insisted on making him dinner. Amazingly, he had gotten special permission from the academy to go to her room. She had gone all out. The lights were off and there were candles burning. The food was delicious, she was obviously an excellent cook. And she had even provided a large bottle of really potent sake. It was certainly a whole different experience from the meals he'd gotten used to from Mocha. Then again, Mocha's desserts had been out of this world. I'm so glad you're enjoying it. She looked and sounded pleased. You know you really didn't have to go to all this trouble. But I'm only here for tonight, tomorrow morning Jiraiya and I will take that thing back to Fire Country. It's called a bus. She nodded. Ah, yes that's right. We will take that bus and I won't see you again until you return to Konoha. Since that won't be for years, making you this dinner was the least I could do. Under slightly different circumstances he would have relaxed and enjoyed having such a beautiful woman serving him such a great meal. Glancing out the window he knew that potential disaster was right around the corner. Mocha was standing on the dormitory roof across from where that girl was entertaining Naruto. Though the window was open she could see nothing from her current position. She would have had to position herself across from the room to get a decent view. She'd actually thought about it, but her pride would not allow her to stoop to such tactics. If they do anything inappropriate, I will kill her and beat him to within an inch of his life. Yukari was also on the rooftop. Whereas Mocha would stand there perfectly still, she was constantly fidgeting and trying to somehow get a better look. Yukari looked over at the beautiful vampire and began inching towards her. If you try and grab my breasts again, I will throw you off this roof. Mocha never took her eyes off the window below. You're really mean, Yukari pouted and stopped trying to get any closer. I miss the gentle Mocha. When will I see her again? Not until the issues between us and Naruto have been fully resolved. Yukari grinned at the vampire. You're really jealous right now, aren't you? Mocha glanced at her with a frosty expression. Jealous? She questioned in a haughty tone. Of that human child? Do not be ridiculous. She is the same age as Naruto, right? If she's a child, doesn't that mean Naruto is one too? Yukari began to giggle. So wouldn't that make you a child molester? You joke, but in some ways, Naruto is still just a child. In others he is as old as I am. He can be very surprising at times. That little girl from his village could never begin to understand him or give him what he truly needs. Unlike the two of us, Yukari said cheerfully. Mocha turned her eyes back down towards the window. You know, if you want, I could help things along. Yukari pulled out a straw doll. I managed to get a strand of that girl's hair. That means I can use my magic to make her start slapping or kicking him. No, Mocha said firmly. If we interfere, that will only anger him and make things worse in the long run. We must simply trust that nothing will occur between them. Then why are we up here acting like a couple of stalkers? Mocha did not bother to answer that. After a long silence, Yukari began fidgeting again. I'm really surprised Mizore and Kurumu aren't up here too. Though Kurumu did try and pretend she didn't care. I do not know Mizore well, so I have no idea what her motivations are. As for Kurumu, Mocha curled her lip. I am sure she is in her room right now entertaining some of her pathetic pets. Kurumu had on a little black dress that seemed about to burst. It revealed nearly all and left precious little to the imagination. At the moment she was curled up on her couch, eagerly pressing her tits up against his chest. She'd had him with her very first smile, but had still used her charm to bring him completely under her control. He'd put up absolutely no resistance. I just love older men, she purred in his ear. You have no idea how happy I am to hear that. An overly excited Jiraiya panted. This was going to make a great chapter in his next book. Shall I thrill you with some stories of my amazing and heroic adventures? Actually, she squeezed herself up against him. Could you tell me every last thing you know about Naruto? Sure, to start with. Hinata-san. Please stop calling me that, she said. You don't have to be formal with me. Please call me Hinata, or if you want, Hinata-chan. He shook his head slightly. You're the daughter of the Hokage and heir to one of the most elite clans of the village. I don't think someone like me should be talking to you in such a familiar way. But of course, you should. You're my betrothed, she argued. We're going to be husband and wife someday. No, we're not. He wasn't trying to be mean, but he couldn't keep the anger from his voice. Do you even know who the hell I am? Just what do you think you know about me? I know everything about you, Naruto-kun, she said in a small voice. Why is he angry with me? I've only tried to make him feel comfortable. Before I came here, both my father and Jiraiya spoke to me at length, and I was allowed to read your classified personnel file. I know everything about you that Jiraiya does. Is that a fact? 5 hours earlier. So now you know the truth, Jiraiya said. They were alone in his room. Naruto was holding 2 documents in his hands. Jiraiya had just revealed his parentage to him and what the Hokage had planned for him whenever he returned. So, as you can see in the will, you are the last surviving member of the Namikaze clan and sole heir to a fortune worth over 500 million ryu. You will inherit the family estates and become the richest man in the village, richer even than me or the Hokage. Hokage. You will also inherit your family's seat on the council. The Hokage intends to have the entire village honor you as the son of the Yondaime, and as the hope for the restoration of the Yondaime's line. And to prove to you just how greatly the Hokage values you, he is giving you his daughter to be one of your wives. One of? Jiraiya had a huge grin on his face. Since you're the last member of one of our clans, there's a special law that applies to you. You'll be allowed to take 3 wives in order to ensure you are able to restore your clan. And one of them will be the lovely Hinata. You will be able to call the 5th Hokage, Dad. As soon as you come home, you'll have wealth, women, and power. Not too bad, right? He's despicable. Naruto said. What? The Hokage, he's despicable. He's a father, and a father should love and protect his children. He should want his daughter to be with someone who can love her and make her happy. Instead, he condemns her to be with someone like me. That's a really negative way of seeing things, kid, Jiraiya said unhappily. Most guys would be jumping for joy at the news I just gave you. I'm not most guys. Naruto was reading the second document. It was a letter. When was this written? It was written in the few minutes he had before going to face the Kyuubi. Jiraiya answered solemnly. That's how much he cared about you, Naruto. At the very end of his life he wanted to leave you something. Naruto said nothing as he read the letter. My son. As I write this to you, you are a child crying in his father's arms. When I look into your small face, it breaks my heart to know what I am about to do. I beg your forgiveness, son, and ask you to understand that this is the only way. I know the terrible burden I place on you, and I pray you will be the sort of man who can bear it. Please understand that you are my son and I love you, but as my son you are the only one I can entrust with this awful responsibility. It is my greatest hope that all the people of this village will recognize you as the hero that you are. I had hoped that you would have your mother there to help you, but she is gone. Know that she loved you and wanted you, she held you in her arms and was content as her life ended. Though you will lose your parents and your family this night, you will not be alone. I have entrusted your safety to the man I admire most, my sensei, the great Jiraiya. I hope that by the time you read this your godfather has become the father to you that I cannot be. Goodbye, my son, and please know that I love you and ask you to forgive me. Your father. Namikaze Minato. He read it a second time, staring at the words. His mother had told him that his father had loved him. He hadn't believed her. But his father had spent the last minutes of his life writing to him and proclaiming his love for his son and asking forgiveness for the wrong he was about to commit. Somehow knowing the words were from him made a difference. "I forgive you," he whispered. "What did you say, kid?" "I said that I forgive my father for what he did to me. I always hated the yandere for what he did, but he asked for forgiveness. I know he had a hard choice and that he only did what he had to. So I forgive him." "I'm glad to hear that, kid. I know it would make him very happy to hear that." Jiraiya eyed him guardedly. "You know you've taken the news that you're the yandame's son a lot better than I would have expected. I was expecting you to either be furious or shocked senseless. Believe me, you have no idea what a surprise it is to me." He looked at Jiraiya and gave him a big friendly smile. "You were my father's sensei." "I sure was, kid. He was an amazing person, your father. I loved him like a son." "You loved him like a son? How sweet." He took a step forward, his smile never faltering. "So, I guess I'm sort of like a grandson to you, huh?" "Well, not yet, but if you want, we can work on getting to know each other once you return. My offer of training you is still open. I'd be very happy to help you out of respect for your father." "Is that right?" he said softly and took another step forward. "You want to help me out of respect for my father, who you loved like a son?" "That's right, kid." There was something about Naruto's sudden friendliness that Jiraiya didn't like. He took a half step back. "You never read my father's letter, did you?" "No, it was sealed and meant only for you." Is there something you'd like to confess to me? Anything you want to apologize to me for?" "If there is, now would be the time." Jiraiya frowned at him. "Nothing comes to mind." "I see." Naruto's fist caught him right in the middle of his face. The mighty Jiraiya had a comical look of surprise on his face as he looked up from the floor. "You son of a bitch." He tossed the letter at him. "Read it. And just so you know, the only reason I don't kill you right now is because of the damn seal." Jiraiya took the letter and quickly read through. "Ah hell, oh kid, I'm so sorry. But you have to understand." "Oh, I understand, Godfather. My father, who you loved, trusted you to take care of me. He thought you'd be like a father to me, and instead you abandoned me. And when I finally did meet you, it was only so you could put that damn seal on me. Wouldn't Dad be proud of you?" Jiraiya flinched at the accusation and looked ashamed as he got up. "Kid, I'm so sorry. When I lost Minato, it really was like I lost my own son. The hurt was so terrible I couldn't even bear to be in Konoha for years after that. I took a bunch of long-term missions. By the time I finally got back you were long gone and I figured it was best I stay out of your life." Naruto laughed a bit. "So basically, you decided your godson mattered less than your own pain. And then you decided I wasn't even worth bothering to check up on. I was miserable. I was alone. And you didn't even care. Kid, what did I know about being a father? I didn't think I could handle it. But you didn't even try. So, what if you wouldn't have been the greatest dad? Maybe if people had just known Jiraiya was my godfather, that would have been enough. Maybe they would have been just a little less cruel to me. Maybe the third wouldn't have had to send me away. Maybe I could have been a little normal. If you'd at last tried, everything might have been different for me. But no, I guess I wasn't worth the effort. Kid, I'm sorry." "Well, that makes it all better." Naruto struggled to keep his fury in check and to keep from drawing out the Kyuubi's power. "Just so you know, Godfather, I don't forgive you. Now please get the hell out of here." "All right, Ki, all right, Naruto. Remember, you're having dinner with Hinata tonight." "No, I'm not. There's no way I'm marrying her, so there's no point in seeing her." "If you don't want to marry her, that's your decision, I suppose, but the girl came all this way to see you and really wants to talk to you. Since she's never done anything to you, can you at least meet with her? Is that a fact?" Naruto said. So, you know I'm a monster? Naruto-kun, I don't see you that way. Hinata said. She looked at him shyly. To me you are that brave little boy who always smiled when others were being mean to him. I always admired your confidence and your courage. I always wondered what would have happened if you had stayed at the academy. He smiled at her, a big friendly smile. Oh, that's easy. If I'd stayed, you'd have wound up hating me like everyone else. She looked at him in shock. That's not true, Naruto-kun. Of course, it is. Everyone hated me, except for the Hokage and Irika-sensei. What? Do you really think you'd have been different? What would you have done the first time the other kids cornered you and asked you why you were being nice to me? They'd have told you I was a freak and that everyone hated me, and that if you didn't do the same, you'd be a freak too. After that you would have started treating me like everyone else. I wouldn't have. She seemed on the verge of tears. Naruto-kun, please believe me. I always liked and admired you. I would never have been cruel to you. He stared at her. I remember a girl named Sakura. She had pink hair and I thought she was pretty. My first day at the academy I talked to her and she was nice to me. She even said she'd be my friend. The very next day the other girls grabbed her and explained how things were. When I tried to talk to her again, she screamed she didn't like me and hit me. That's what would have happened if I'd stayed. Naruto-kun. He wiped his mouth and got up from the table. Look, Hinata-san, you seem like a really good girl. So, I'm going to do you a favor, I'm not going to marry you. Whatever you may think, you don't know me, I am not that 8-year-old you remember so fondly. I am a horrible person and I've given up on ever trying to love anyone. I am going to tell your father I won't marry you, and then at least you'll have a chance of being with someone who might love you. He bowed to her. Thank you for the meal, it really was delicious. Wait. Naruto-kun, can't you at least stay and talk with me for a while? Even if you're not that boy anymore, I'm sure something of him is still there inside of you. Won't you at least give me a chance? You might like me. No, please just forget about me. Believe me, it's better this way. As he opened the door, Hinata saw all her hopes about to disappear forever. I love you. She cried out. He stopped and turned around to look at her. I have been in love with you ever since I first saw you. I have never once wanted to be with anyone but that brave little boy. Please let me be with you. I swear if you will just let me be your wife, I will spend every day trying to make you happy. And maybe one day you'll love me as I love you. He stared at her. He knew that her heartfelt confession was genuine. He was deeply touched that any girl could think of him with such affection for such a long time. She really was a good, kind girl. He laughed at her. Cammy, you're an idiot. He slammed the door as he left. Hinata stood there. Her dream gone and her heart suddenly broken. She'd really hoped, she'd really thought. I am a fool, she muttered as she began to cry. Mocha could sense the energy and turned around to see the wind and leaves swirling about. Did you enjoy the show? Naruto asked. It was a little uncomfortable sensing your aura all through dinner. I apologize if I distracted you. I actually saw nothing at all. Did your evening go well? Mocha asked calmly. He gave her a little nod. It was fine. Just so you know, nothing happened. She already knew that. There was barely a trace of the girl's scent on him. If there had been any significant contact, she would have left a much stronger trail. And you wanted to come and assure me of that to set my mind at ease, Uzumaki Naruto? She took a couple of steps to stand in front of him. I just wanted to make sure you didn't think something had happened. I don't need you beating up the Hokage's daughter. Is that the only reason you came to see me, Uzumaki Naruto? Concern for that girl's well-being? He was about to confirm it when his hand suddenly reached out and grabbed both her breasts. He saw the look of surprise on her face and knew it had to match his. "Oh, Cammy, she's going to kill me." But rather than kill him, she calmly asked, "Do you wish to do this right here or back at my apartment?" "I'm not doing it. My body is moving on its own, I swear." From behind the door to the roof, they heard giggling. "Yukari!" they both shouted. Naruto shinned back to his apartment. He materialized to find he was not alone. Kurumu was standing there in a little black dress looking worried. "Kurumu! What are you doing here? I thought I told you that you were nothing to me. I don't want to talk to you or anything else. Get out." She flinched away from his anger but held her ground. "Naruto!" He grabbed her by her shoulders and shook her roughly back and forth. "Do you think coming here to offer me sex will make everything all right? That's not why I'm here." She pulled out of his grasp. "I realize you can't forgive me for what I did, but I still want to try and help you." "By giving me sex?" "No, by giving you information. I was able to charm Jiraiya and get him to tell me about a whole lot of things you don't know. I've come here to share everything I found out. Oh, and just so you know, I found about the seal on your heart and tried to get him to remove it." "You did?" he said in surprise. "Yeah, but even under my charm he wouldn't go that far. I didn't think he had any will at all, but he won't break direct orders from his leader. I was able to get him to talk though, and I even told him to forget what we had talked about, so tomorrow he'll wake up and imagine we spent the night doing freaky things." He looked at her. "You did all that just to help me? Why?" She looked back at him. "Because even if I've ruined everything between us, I still love you. Even if you hate me, Naruto-kun, I'll still do anything I can to protect you. I also found out about the Kyuubi, and it doesn't matter to me." He looked at her, amazed she would do so much for him even though he'd rejected her. "Thank you, Kurumu. What did you find out?" "Well, a lot, but there are two things that seem most important. One, the Hokage is so impressed by how quickly you're gaining power he doesn't plan on leaving you here until you graduate. Once you achieve 5 tails, he plans to call you back. He thinks that is powerful enough to be a big help to the village and that you'll eventually reach your full potential. He wants you in Konoha where he can keep an eye on you. Thanks for telling me that. I'll need to be careful not to reach the 5-tail state until I'm ready. Or else I need to have another talk with the headmaster." "But that's not the most important news, Naruto-kun," she said worriedly. "Naruto-kun, there are people after you. Powerful people who want the demon that's inside of you." He grinned. "They want my demon, huh? I wish I could have met them about 8 years ago. Naruto-kun, this is serious. According to Jiraiya, there are only 9 demon lords that exist on or visit your world. These people have captured the other 8 and the hosts that carried them were all killed by the extraction. You're the last, Naruto-kun. Jiraiya doesn't think they know where you are, but they're searching for you. If they find out where you are, they'll definitely come for you." Nice that the Hokage and Jiraiya neglected to mention that. He nodded to her gratefully. "This is a real help, Kurumu. How much can you tell me about them?" "Not that much, but I'll tell you what I know. To start with, they're called Akatsuki." Chapter 26, A Special Offer. Kurumu spent a couple hours relating everything she had found out to him. Unfortunately, she did not have as much information on Akatsuki as he would have hoped. Apparently, despite much effort, the organization remained largely a mystery. Jiraiya had no idea who their leader was, what its goals were, or even the reason why they had acquired the Demon Lords. Among the things that were known was the fact they seemed to operate in 2-man teams made up of ninja of A or S rank. Despite the fact they were a secret organization, they seemed to have a uniform. Its members usually went out dressed in black robes with red clouds on them. Only a few of the members were known, including Deidara, Kisame, and, most alarming, Uchiha Itachi.
Naruto had still been in the village when the Uchiha massacre had occurred.
Any ninja that could single-handedly exterminate an entire clan was definitely someone to be wary of.
Kurumu also gave him other pieces of information,
such as the fact his village had been at war for the last 4 years. One of the reasons the Hokage was so eager to recall him was his hope that Naruto would be the secret weapon that would finally bring the war to a victorious conclusion. He also learned that it had been Orochimaru who had killed the third Hokage.
Naruto made a special point to file that information away. That's everything I was able to find out. Kurumu looked at him. Did it help? Are you kidding me?
It helps a whole lot. I haven't heard a thing from my village for the last 4 years.
Now thanks to you I have a whole lot of valuable info.
Including the little fact that there's an organization of elite ninja looking for me. He gave her an appreciative nod. I truly thank you for helping me, Kurumu, especially since you had no reason to.
It's all right.
Even though I know you can't forgive me, I'll still do whatever I can to help you.
If you ever need me, all you have to do is let me know. I'll go ahead and leave now.
She was about to go when Naruto surprised her. He reached out and took hold of her. He pulled her close and squeezed her tight.
There was nothing sexual in the embrace.
It was just his way of expressing his genuine appreciation of what she'd done for him. She had never been held so strongly, had never been so happy just to feel the simple physical connection. He did not say the words, but as he held her it felt as though he were forgiving her, at least a little. She shut her eyes and simply enjoyed the feeling.
Naruto-kun, I would walk through fire for you.
Thank you, he whispered to her as he finally let her go. She nodded and put her head down. She turned to the window and let her wings and tail emerge.
Naruto?
Yes?
She did not turn around.
Those boys I hang out with.
You know they don't matter to me, right? They're fun and a distraction, but nothing more. I could never love any of them. He suddenly felt a little warm and a little nervous. Why did she tell me that? Kurumu, You don't have to say anything, Naruto. I just wanted to make sure you knew. Good night. She leapt out the window and was soon gone from sight.
The following morning Naruto was there as Jiraiya exited his room.
Good morning, Godfather, Naruto called in a cheery voice. Sleep well?
Jiraiya looked very uncomfortable.
Please don't call me that. I think I'd rather you went back to just calling me a pervert. Why? Does it bother you being reminded of the responsibility you ignored? Here, he handed Jiraiya a sealed envelope. Please deliver that to the Hokage. What is it?
Jiraiya looked at the thing suspiciously.
It's a formal rejection of his request that I marry his daughter.
Jiraiya looked at the young man unhappily. Speaking of Hinata, I stopped in to check on her last night after my, evening out. She was in tears. What the hell did you do to her? I did her a huge favor. I made it real clear to her that she shouldn't waste any more of her time dreaming about me. Given the situation, it was the nicest thing I could have done.
Did you have to make the poor girl cry? Don't you try and tell me how to deal with people. He turned around to go. You are making a huge mistake.
I doubt it, he left without another word.
So that girl is gone and won't be coming back, right? Yukari asked. That's right, Naruto said and then took a bite of his food.
I wonder why she came out here for just one day. Yukari said. I guess the Hokage was hoping I'd fall in love with her or something. Yukari snorted, all the worries from the other day were forgotten.
Like that would ever happen. Hinata wasn't a bad girl. I'm sure she'll make someone very happy.
He shrugged.
But not you, Mocha stated. So, what type of girl would make you happy, Uzumaki Naruto?
He was about to proclaim no such person existed when he was interrupted by a loud commotion.
Yahoo! So who wants to bring me my lunch today? The dozen or so boys trailing behind Kurumu all loudly started pleading for the honor.
As was her habit, she led her entourage right past their table while refusing to even glance in their direction. She took them to a couple tables all the way at the other end of the courtyard.
She does that on purpose, Yukari complained. She is so annoying. I'm glad we don't have to put up with her anymore. I agree, Mocha said.
She is nothing but a spoiled little girl who never thinks about anyone but herself. Naruto glanced over in her direction, but said nothing.
3 students gathered around a table in a small room.
One was a polite-looking fellow with glasses. Another was a young man who was calmly reading a book as he sat down. The third was a cute dark-haired girl who looked a bit jittery.
We need to do something, the girl began as soon as they were all seated. Naruto definitely suspects you, Hokuto.
The boy with the glasses nodded ruefully.
I'm afraid you're right, Mako.
Looking back on it, what he said to me was obviously bait for a trap. I should have ignored it, but at the time it seemed a good idea to act.
The fact that Mizuki was so late to the committee meeting will definitely be noticed, Mako said.
They might be hesitant to arrest you since you're the committee president and have such a sterling reputation.
But they might be a lot more willing to arrest Mizuki. If he talks, it's over.
Hokuto let out a regretful sigh.
I am afraid I have to agree with you.
It's a shame, as he is not only fairly powerful but as a class representative, he has his uses. Still, as things are, he is too much of a liability. I'll take care of him then, Kiryu offered without bothering to look up from his reading. Hokuto grinned over at his best friend.
You're actually going to take an active role for once? Kiryu flipped the page.
It might be entertaining, and I have some free time this afternoon.
Well, that takes care of one problem, Mako said.
But we still have to get rid of Naruto.
Won't that bring added suspicion on Hokuto? Kiryu asked.
He is already under suspicion, Mako argued.
If we do nothing, Naruto will just keep digging. He seems to be the only one on the police committee who is actively trying to investigate us. If we get rid of him, Koyu and those other elitist bastards will go back to just terrorizing the student body. Are you volunteering to kill him? Hokuto asked. Mako nodded. Leave it to me.
I'll even do it when you're in class or in a meeting so you'll have an alibi.
Kiryu looked up from his book.
Some of our people swear he has a demonic aura and that he killed Midu with just one blow.
Are you sure you can handle it? She grinned. Leave it to me. I already know exactly how to do it.
In Konoha, the Hokage was sitting behind his desk alone in his office. Jiraiya had delivered a letter to him from Naruto which he'd stated contained a formal refusal of the marriage alliance. A very blunt rejection letter had been in the envelope.
But there had been a second letter which Jiraiya apparently did not know about.
Hayashi was reading it carefully.
To the 5th Hokage of Konoha. Greetings, Lord Hokage.
I have decided to write this to you based on the assumption that you still hope to have me serve you willingly and of my own volition. Jiraiya informed me of all the plans you have in store for honoring me and giving me a high place within the village. I tend to have my doubts about your goodwill, however, give past treatment, and especially given the second seal you had placed on me. Nevertheless, I have recently come to understand that men in your position often make decisions that they view as necessary for the greater good, even when it means inflicting evil on the undeserving.
My father wrote me a letter asking me to forgive him. I have done so.
Before confronting my godfather, I gave him an opportunity to confess to me and ask my forgiveness. Had he done so, I would have been willing to forgive him as well.
I have decided to give you and the entire village the same opportunity.
I am making to you a very special one-time only offer.
Please consider it well.
I am ready to give up all claims to the Namake's estates and fortune.
I relinquish all claims to a seat on the council. I will not accept my father's name or any connection to his clan.
As I was denied the Namake's name as a child, I have no wish to take it now. I will not marry or father any children, so the Yandame's line will end with me.
I will ask for no special treatment or consideration of any kind from the village. I will only expect the same conduct afforded every other ninja of the leaf. I will serve both you and the village faithfully and to the best of my ability as a loyal leaf nin.
In short, I will forgive everything that has been done to me by yourself and the village in general.
In return for all this, I ask only one thing, that the seal placed on me by Jiraiya be removed and no further acts of coercion be made against me. I ask only to be treated like any other ninja. If you truly desire to have me serve the village of my own free, will I ask you send Jiraiya to meet with me sometime in the next 7 days. If he does not return within the next week, I shall view that as a rejection of my offer and as proof that you prefer to use me simply as a tool or weapon. If that is your choice, please understand that it means you are permanently forfeiting any chance of ever earning my forgiveness or friendship. I will instead become your unwilling tool, a tool that will be bound to you only by the threat of the seal that was placed on me. I ask you to seriously consider this offer and the value of my forgiveness and friendship. With respect, Uzumaki Naruto.
The Hokage reread the letter and shook his head.
Did Naruto really believe he was in any position to dictate terms? When he returned to the village, he would take the Namake's name and his proper place on the council. He would marry Hinata, thereby tying the Namake's wealth and power into the service of the Hyuga clan.
He would serve Konoha as its greatest weapon and bring not only victory but a secured peace to the war-weary village. And he would do so whether he wanted to or not because of that seal. That seal was enough to guarantee Naruto's obedience. He is still just a boy, Hayashi said to himself. He has no sense of reality. Without formality, he tossed both letters into the trash and promptly moved on to new business. Though he did not suspect it, with his decision Hayashi had literally tossed aside the last chance to save Konoha. From that moment on, Konoha's fate was sealed.
Chapter 27, Never Hurt You.
7 days had passed since Jiraiya's visit.
Honestly, he was not surprised at the Hokage's decision. If Jiraiya had actually shown up, he would have been amazed. Still, a small part of him was disappointed. Having found it in him to finally forgive his father, he'd made the huge decision to grant the Hokage and Konoha one last chance. And all he'd asked was that they treat him the same way they treated all the ninja. If they had just been willing to extend him that much humanity. But of course, he'd known they would never do that. No, he was their tool, their weapon, and that was how they wanted it. He'd known it would end this way. After all, when had that damn village ever shown him any mercy? Now when the time came, he would show them no mercy, and do it with a clean conscience and no doubts. What are you waiting for, Uzumaki-san? Kyuubi asked. Let's begin the training. Naruto glanced over at the other person in the small clearing. You know, do we really need to do this right now? You have something better to do with your time? Kyuubi asked dryly. The headmaster is still not returned, so you cannot move forward with your investigation. Naruto grumbled, that was true enough. Mizuki had disappeared. Both he and Kiriya were simply gone. That left the Academy School Committee President Hokuto, who he still couldn't touch, as the only available suspect. You have achieved the three-tail state, now you must work towards the next step. Kyuubi said. But does she have to be here watching me? He whined. Mocha lifted an eyebrow. You object to my presence, Uzumaki Naruto? Why do you have to be here for this? Naruto asked her. Because I consider spending time with you more important than anything else, she said simply. But... Yes? He looked embarrassed. I don't want you to see this. She was surprised. Why not? I have seen you transform before. But... I hate the way I look when I change. He looked away from her. I'm ugly. You certainly are, Kyuubi agreed. Hey! But you are, extremely ugly. Kyuubi transformed into his final form. He was a slightly taller human-like being. He had 2 fox-like ears, pale white skin covered in bizarre markings, and 4 tails that were blazing white. As you can see for yourself, the ultimate form of a Yukai Kitsune is truly beautiful to behold. Even my secondary form is a magnificent sight that was worshipped by your kind. Yukai Kitsune have 2 monstrous forms, a fox made of elemental fire and a humanoid one. The form you take is a bastardization of a true Kitsune's final form and human. He made a face. Personally, I can think of nothing more repellent. Gee, thanks. Naruto said. Do not concern yourself, Uzumaki Naruto, Moka said. You could never seem ugly to me, and besides, her lips seemed to twitch bit. I rather like seeing you with red yes and fangs. Her words made him blush a little. To try and hide it, he looked from her back over to Kyuubi. So, what is the point to me transforming without drawing the Kyuubi's power? Kyuubi frowned. Up until now you have actually done surprisingly well in gaining the Great Lord's power. However, from this point on you will find it markedly harder. The 4-tail state is an important tipping point. Up until now each increase in the number of tails has doubled your power. From this point forward your power will increase by a factor of 10. In other words, the 4-tail state will be 10 times more powerful than the 3. And each new state will mean a similar leap in power. Until the final step, when you achieve 9 tails you will become 1,000 times more powerful than the 8-tail state. 1,000 times more powerful? Naruto couldn't even imagine it. The stories about the Kyuubi said he could flatten mountains with a swipe of his tail. Maybe they weren't kidding. Kyuubi nodded. Perhaps you can begin to understand why my race worshipped Lord Kyuubi as almost a god. When that time comes, you will have to transform fully into a Yukai Kitsune in order to withstand such extraordinary levels of demonic force. But that day is a long way off. For now, you must practice transforming without relying on the Great Lord's power in order to ready your body for the 4-tail state. Otherwise, you may lose control of the transformation, which would put your life, and more importantly the Great Lord's life, in jeopardy. Now stop delaying and begin. Naruto sighed. He really hated transforming unless he had to. But there was no denying that what Kyuubi had pointed out had made sense. I can put up with being ugly for a while if I can get 10 times as powerful. There were no hand signs as with performing a henge. And unlike when he drew on the Kyuubi's red chakra, it didn't just happen automatically. He had to use his own chakra to sort of will the change. It was like his body remembered how to transform and he sort of had to coax it along to do what it already knew how to do. As he concentrated, he could feel as his body slowly morphed into its new form. Unlike using the Kyuubi's power, it did not happen almost instantly. Using his own power, it was a slow drawn-out process. A newborn kid could do this faster, Kyuubi told him. Shut up, an annoyed Naruto snapped back. You're not helping any. His face felt itchy and his fingers seemed to ache a bit as they became claws. After 15 minutes he had fully transformed. Finally, Kyuubi muttered. Now all you need do is remain in that form for as long as you can. Wonderful, Naruto muttered. The actual transformation was the hard part. He could stay like this for hours. Of course, when he was drawing the Kyuubi's power his duration was a lot shorter. As they were standing there, they heard a shout. Out of the woods and into the clearing came a girl in a school uniform. Panting, she looked up at them in panic. Please help. It's the outcast Ayashi. What? Are they after you? Where are they? Naruto asked her. The girl smiled. Right here, she said. Her index fingers transformed and suddenly shot out several feet and stabbed into the chests of Kyuubi and Moka. Blood began to pour out of both their wounds. Mocha! Naruto cried out and ran to attack the girl. As he did so, he was immediately surrounded by the three-tailed cloak. That was the only thing that saved him from death. Just as he approached, Kyuu suddenly turned around and slammed his fist into Naruto's face. As he was already transformed, the blow would have been fatal except for the cloak's protection. As it was, Naruto was sent hurtling into and through a nearby tree. Smiling, Mako retracted the finger from Kuyu's chest. Ah, this is going to be fun to watch. She smiled over at Mocha, who was still impaled. You can join in and help kill your boyfriend. Mocha struggled, she couldn't seem to control her body. Naruto, run, get out of here. Mako laughed. You're actually resisting my control? He must mean a great deal to you for you to fight me this hard. But that just means you need a bigger dose. 3 more fingers from her left hand extended and stabbed into Mocha as she screamed. What the hell are you doing to Mocha? Naruto cried out. He was back on his feet and racing to get to Mocha, but Kyuu intercepted him. He again swung at him. Not caught by surprise this time, Naruto was able to get an arm up to block, but Kyuu was much stronger and forced him to stagger back a couple steps even so. What are you doing, you bastard? Naruto demanded. Oh, don't blame him, Mako said as she retracted her fingers out of Mocha. I've injected them both with some of my blood. It lets me control them just like pieces on a chessboard. I'm guessing he doesn't think too much of you, as it only took a little to bring him under my control. The girl though, now she must really love you. I've never had to give anyone such a concentrated dose before. But they're both mine now. She was caught off guard as she felt his killer intent come down on her with almost physical weight. If you've hurt Mocha, then I swear I'll kill you. Huh, I don't doubt you'll try. As he watched, she disappeared from sight. But first you'll have to kill her. A disembodied voice mocked. As if on cue, Mocha moved with all her amazing speed right for him. Mocha, don't. She slammed her fist into his face and again sent him flying. She was definitely not holding back. With the Kyuubi's cloak he was unhurt, but they both seemed determined to change that. Before he could even get back up, Kyuu and Mocha were both on top of him, punching and kicking as hard as they could. He quickly realized that he and Mocha were of about equal strength, with her being faster and him being better protected. Kyuu was a lot stronger than he was. Naruto might have had infinitely greater potential, but at the moment he was a 3-tail fighting a 4-tail. A 4-tail with 10 times greater power. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't block their attacks as they continued to double-team him and knock him around. Only the protection of the cloak kept him from being beaten to death. I knew this would work, Mako's voice said triumphantly. You're completely helpless against them. It's not over yet. Desperate for a little breathing room, he did one of the few things that he could do that neither Mocha nor Kyuu could. He ran up the side of a large tree. This only gave him a momentary respite as they both began climbing up after him. But they could not climb as fast as he could run, and it gave him the moment he needed to cast a jutsu. Kagebushin no Jutsu. All around the air filled with smoke as 200 clones came to life. They all knew what he wanted, and as one they all launched themselves at Mocha. They did not punch or kick her. Instead, they all tackled her en masse, burying her beneath their combined weight and pinning her to the ground. Come and get me, Kyuu. He swiftly leapt away to another tree and another, leaving Mocha and his clones far behind. As Naruto had expected, Kyuu chased after him as Mocha struggled to tear apart the pile of clones trying to hold her in place. As the clones were destroyed, Naruto got their memories and had to grimace. Mocha was shredding them. They wouldn't be able to delay her more than a few minutes. Even so, the clones continued only to try and hold onto her, they would not attack her. As he was running, Kyuu unleashed a huge wheel of white fire that caught him in midair and sent him crashing back down. You should know fire can't hurt me while I'm like this. Kyuu made no reply as he instead came right at him. Naruto had noted that neither of them had said a word while attacking them.
He guessed that had to mean that while their bodies were being controlled, their personalities were being suppressed. That was fortunate, as Kyuubi had some idea of what he was capable of and probably wouldn't have been stupid enough to come straight at him. He began making hand signs. Fire won't hurt him, but I have other weapons. Just as Kyuubi was on top of him, he completed the jutsu. Kamikaze no Jutsu. Knowing Kyuubi had the edge in raw power and knowing Moka was on her way, Naruto decided he could not afford to fool around. The Divine Wind was his most powerful wind-based attack, and he gave it every scrap of energy he could, designed to level an area mile wide with hurricane-force winds. He concentrated it into as small a space as possible and unleashed it. Kyuubi and a section of forest about 500 yards wide were flattened. He checked and saw Kyuubi was still alive. He had several deep gashed and was buried underneath several tree trunks. The jutsu had worked well, but taken quite a bit out of him. And Moka was on the way. No matter what happened, he was not going to hurt her. He was ready to make any other sacrifice so long as it meant Moka wasn't hurt. Kagebushin no Jutsu. This time, despite putting his best effort into it, only 30 clones came into being. He could feel the strain beginning to tell. He was starting to reach his limits with the Kyuubi's power. He really had to end this quick or Moka just might kill him. You know what to do. The clones all nodded and grimly set out to carry out his plan. Moka soon found him. None of the clones he'd made had delayed her, and she came right at him. Wall of wind technique. He'd hoped to hold her off as a barrier of solid air swept towards her. Moka, however, sensed it and simply leapt over it to land near him. Before he could move or cast another jutsu, she caught him with a kick to the chest that sent him down. She was on him, pinning him to the ground. She began beating him with all her might. He could have killed her. He didn't need hand signs to create a fire that would have left her nothing but ashes. But the thought never crossed his mind. Anything, even dying, was better than that. He tried to get away from her, but she gave him no chance. He could only hope his plan would work before the Kyuubi's energy gave out. From a safe distance, an invisible Mako watched as Moka did all she could to kill her lover. Her way of fighting had always been to use others as her weapons. She was weak in actual combat. Found you, bitch. Naruto's voice screamed as he tackled her from behind. No. How could you find me? In her panic, she again became visible. The face of a transformed Naruto smiled down wickedly. When I'm like this, I have a real good sense of smell. I'll give you just one chance to surrender. No. If she surrendered, she was as good as dead. A finger jabbed through his chest and the clone was gone with a puff of smoke. Wrong answer. 5 more clones appeared around the now visible Mako. As one, they sent a hail of kunai encased with wind chakra at her. She didn't have a chance. Moka suddenly stopped. She held her fist in place and seemed to shake. Moka? He asked hopefully. He'd just gotten the memory of one of his clones being taken out by Mako. Maybe some of the others had finished her. She looked down at him, seeming to be confused for a moment. Naruto? Moka, are you okay? Naruto, please forgive me. She shuddered and pitched forward unconscious. Moka! Moka-chan, are you all right? He let go of the red chakra, and despite his own sudden sense of weakness, he grabbed her and held her close. Moka-chan? She did not respond. It's going to be all right, he whispered to her. He got up and performed the shunshin. The clones could take care of Kyuubi. He was taking her immediately to the Academy Infirmary. Chapter 28, Tell him to his face. She slowly opened her eyes. It took her a moment to orient herself. She was lying in a strange bed and the room was dark. She could see in the dark and looked about. From the small bed she was in, she guessed she was in the Academy Infirmary. The next thing she noticed was someone sitting in a chair next to her bed. His head was lolled back and he was snoring. I cannot believe I have actually missed the sound of his snoring, was the first thought that crossed her mind. The second, he actually stayed with me, I am so glad. She reached out and gently shook his arm. Naruto, she called out to him. At the sound of her voice, he began to stir awake. He opened up his eyes and saw Mocha looking at him with a small smile. Mocha-chan, you're awake. I am Uzumaki Naruto, she said. Her smile widened a bit. Are you aware that you just called me Mocha-chan? Yeah, he rubbed the back of his head. I'm still allowed to, right? Of course, she looked at him questioningly. Can you tell me why I am here? Don't you remember what happened? She shook her head slightly. The last thing I recall was watching your transformation. Huh, well I guess forgetting everything must be a side effect. He related to her the details of the attack. Mocha listened to his words with a calm face. So, I tried to kill you? She said softly. He grinned at her. Well, it's not the first time. She did not react to his little joke. I am so sorry, Naruto, it seems that once again I tried to hurt you. Please forgive me. Reaching out, he gently took a hold of her hand. There's nothing to forgive, Mocha-chan, I know it wasn't your choice to attack me. She glanced down to where their hands were and a light blush touched her cheeks. Thank you. You're very welcome, Mocha-chan. Naruto glanced out the window. You've been here all night. It'll be morning soon. I'm sure as soon as the doctor comes back in to check on you, he'll release you. Do you mind if I stay here until then? That would please me, Naruto. He nodded and they began to talk about the little things going on in their lives. Light conversation meant to pass the time. All the while, he never let go of her hand. Mako is dead, Kiria spoke while reading. Did she reveal anything before she was killed? Hokuto asked. If she had, wouldn't you be in a cell right now? Kiria asked. Well, that is something at least. Hokuto let out a disappointed sigh. Midu, Mizuki, and now Mako, we have lost our best people because of Naruto. Even worse, the plan is in jeopardy. Why don't I have a go at him? It would definitely be entertaining. No. Absolutely not. Kiria looked up from his book surprised. Why not? Because you might lose. You actually think he would have a chance against me? I honestly don't know, Hokuto admitted. But I'm starting to think that his reputation is pretty well earned. In any case, we can't wait for the cultural festival to act anymore. We have to push forward our plans. Kiria looked back down at his book. Maybe we should just forget about the plan. What? What are you talking about? We've been aiming towards this for 3 years. Everything we've done, from creating ANTI thesis to my becoming committee president, was all just to make this happen. How can you even suggest we stop now when we're so close? Well, my motivations are a little bit different from yours. Kiria said calmly as he read. I'm not out for revenge or looking to destroy anything. I just found all this to be really entertaining. You also happen to be my best and only friend, so I wanted to help you with your dream. But there's no point in continuing this if it gets you killed. I'm not stopping until I get my revenge. Hokuto answered, his voice and tone rigid. Kiria glanced at him over the top of his book. Even if it kills you? So long as I get my revenge, I don't care what happens after that. Hokuto said. Kiria went back to reading. Fine, you always were stubborn. Hokuto nodded, he knew his friend well. Kiria would back him no matter what. We'll forget all about the cultural festival, we'll begin as soon as the headmaster returns. Hokuto. The president had been on his way to a committee meeting when he'd heard his name called. He stopped and turned about to see someone approaching him. Ah, Naruto, I haven't seen you in any committee meetings lately.
You know, as a class representative, it's your duty to attend them, you know. He gave Hokuto a big friendly smile. Sorry, but I've had more important things to deal with. Fighting antithesis, for example. Really, Hokuto began walking again and Naruto fell into step beside him. May I ask how it is going?
Oh, it's going well. As a matter of fact, I don't think antithesis will be a problem for too much longer.
You have said that before, Hokuto pointed out. Yes, but now I'm even more certain than I was before.
His smile got brighter and his voice even friendlier. You see, I was attacked yesterday by one of them, some girl. She never did mention her name.
I trust you are all right. Not a scratch on me.
But someone who was very precious to me was also attacked and she had to spend the night in the infirmary.
Fortunately, she was fine. Well, I am glad to hear that. Was this precious person Mocha? There is a rumor going around that she was in the infirmary. Naruto nodded. The rumors here sure go around fast, don't they? Yeah, it was Mocha. The outcast Ayashi who did it got sliced up by me. You killed her? Hokuto sounded surprised. Wouldn't have been better to have taken her prisoner?
Yeah, I gave her one chance to give up. After that I didn't give her any more chances. To be honest, I didn't really want to spare her, not after she attacked Mocha.
But anyway, that has nothing to do with why I'm sure antithesis is finished. Oh? Then why do you believe that? Naruto looked directly into the taller boy's eyes. Hokuto thought they might have flashed red for an instant. Because I think I know who their leader is, and I'm going to kill him. Naruto sounded pleased. Whoever the girl was, she no doubt got her orders from him. So as far as I'm concerned, he was the one who caused Mocha to be hurt. And you are going to kill him for that? That's right, anyone who attacks someone I care for becomes my enemy and gets no mercy. Naruto chuckled. I just wish there were some way I could tell the person to his face I was going to kill him. He glanced back up at Hokuto. But that's impossible, of course. Of course, Hokuto responded easily. Well, I just wanted to say hi, so I'll be going. You're not coming to the meeting? I'd sooner chew my own arm off. Hokuto looked at him carefully. You're really a very cruel person, aren't you? Naruto laughed. You have no fucking idea. In a deluxe apartment in Tokyo, a man was lying unconscious on the floor. He had just been attacked and his mind ransacked. Come the morning, he would only remember feeling faint and passing out. He would make an appointment to see his family doctor. He was just an ordinary man, a local who had a job of collecting the weekly rent and checking on the vacant apartment to make sure it was still in good condition. He had no idea of the significance of the apartment or its last resident. Remember, we must leave everything as we found it, a man in black robe with red clouds said. If they realize this apartment is known to us, our efforts will all have been wasted. I know, the other man sighed. He was going through a stack of envelopes. I wish we could have found this place a year ago. That would have made things simpler, the first man agreed. He was going through the empty drawers of the desk in the bedroom. However, Konoha made every effort to keep his location hidden. Everything that touches on him is an S+ rank secret. We are fortunate to have learned this much. Kisame glanced into a mirror. He smiled at the powerful blue-skinned ninja looking back at him. When they exited the apartment, he would have to restore his henge and look like a typical short businessman. He would even have to appear in a business suit. When we're done here, we're going to a geisha house, right? Itachi let out an annoyed sigh. We are here on a mission, we are not here for pleasure. Hey, we're doing the mission. All I'm saying is we'll have a little free time, right? Itachi was about to admonish his partner when he suddenly began coughing. Are you all right? Kisame called from the living room. Itachi noted the small amount of blood on the hand that had covered his mouth.
He quickly took out a handkerchief and wiped both hand and mouth clean.
I am running out of time. I am fine.
He called back serenely.
You've been coughing an awful lot lately. Maybe while we're here you should see a doctor. I am fine, Itachi repeated.
Besides, I have no reason to see a doctor.
There is nothing that can be done at this point.
Kisame was going through the letters and finding nothing but old bills and advertisements.
He then came across an open envelope with no return address or postage.
Hello, what have we here? He quickly pulled out the single sheet of paper that was inside. Yukai Academy, a private high school for the gifted.
Kisame laughed. Have you found something? I think so, Kisame said happily. This definitely calls for a celebration. We're definitely going to see some geishas.
At the student police headquarters, Kuyu was up and about. He'd recovered quickly and refused to believe Naruto's description of events. His pride would not accept that any lowly rogue monster could have controlled him so easily.
Spotting Naruto, he looked up and nodded. I am told that Moka has been released and is fine.
She is, Naruto confirmed. But I won't forget the fact she was hurt.
Kuyu grinned. Sounds like you're eager to act. Yeah, you might say that. Well, in that case, I have some good news for you. The headmaster will be returning tomorrow night.
Perfect. Now I'll finally be able to talk to him and deal with that smug bastard.
He gave Kuyu an excited grin of his own. I can't wait. Chapter 29, A Vampire's Blood. So, are you okay, Moka? Yukari asked.
I am fine, she answered. I merely needed some time to recover.
Are you sure you want to come with me to meet the headmaster tonight? Naruto asked. Certainly, Moka said.
If for whatever reason he refuses permission to deal with who you suspect, I will convince him. You know, if you're planning on threatening him, that might not be wise.
Naruto pointed out. A small amount of intimidation should be sufficient. So, who is it you're planning to arrest? Yukari asked. You know I can't tell you that.
Naruto said as he ate his lunch.
Yukari looked unhappily between Naruto and Moka. You two keep a lot of secrets from me, don't you? I'm sorry, Yukari, but it has to be this way. Naruto said. I'll tell you all about it after it's over.
That evening the two of them approached the headmaster's residence to find the door already open.
They shared an uneasy look. This can't be good, Naruto muttered.
They quickly entered to find 4 men in black lying unconscious in the grand hallway.
But much worse was the sight of the headmaster himself lying at the top of the stairwell in a pool of blood.
What the hell happened here?
Naruto ran up the stairs to check on the headmaster.
Not only was he still alive despite a gaping wound in his back, he was somehow still conscious as well.
Relax, headmaster, I'll get you to the infirmary right away.
No, the man gasped weakly.
Forget me, you must stop him. My Naruto, you really are very persistent.
Hokuto stepped out from behind a nearby column as Kiryu stepped out from behind another. Naruto noted that Hokuto seemed to have a rosary in his right hand.
You really have no idea when to let something go, do you?
As the confrontation began, a figure at the doorway slipped quickly and quietly away. I'm not one for giving up, especially not when my precious people are involved.
Hokuto shook his head a bit.
You're a rude and vicious little man, but I must admit I admire your determination.
Is this what you were after all this time? Naruto asked.
His body was surrounded by his 3-tailed demonic cloak.
Were you out to murder the headmaster? Hokuto laughed slightly. Kill the headmaster?
I admit the thought had crossed my mind, but what I want is so much larger. He held out the rosary clutched in his fist. I had to defeat the headmaster to acquire this rosary of judgment.
This is the key to everything I have worked for.
You have to stop him, the headmaster spoke in a rasping whisper. With that he can undo everything. The headmaster shut his glowing eyes and became unconscious.
What did he mean undo everything? Naruto demanded.
Hokuto smiled.
I am going to deactivate the barrier that keeps this academy hidden from the human world.
I am going to end this ridiculous and artificial peace between human and monster. They were enemies in ancient times and were born to hate and despise one another.
I just want to return the world to the chaos that is its natural order. Humans will hunt monsters and monsters will devour humans, as it was always meant to be.
And the very first victims of this new order will be this wretched academy and all its students.
Yukai Academy will be the flashpoint that begins this glorious war.
Fool!
Mocha snapped angrily. Humans and monsters are not natural enemies. Despite our many differences, we can coexist. She glanced over at Naruto.
And even care for each other. All you will do is cause needless death and destruction.
Yeah, but you have to admit, Kiryu flipped his book shut. It does sound interesting, doesn't it? Hokuto looked over at his friend.
Keep them here for just a few minutes, then get to the rendezvous point. Hokuto spoke a few words of magic and the floor around became filled with inscriptions and runes made of white light.
He began to sink into the floor. Seeing his enemy escaping, Naruto rushed at him and so did Mocha. Kiryu was fast enough to block Mocha but not Naruto, who dove into the floor and was swallowed up by the white light. To Mocha's horror, the light vanished along with both Naruto and Hokuto. What happened to Naruto?
She demanded as she viciously attacked Kiryu.
Kiryu's right arm transformed into a huge scythe. He tried to cut her head off, but Mocha was just able to avoid the blow. Kiryu was exceptionally fast and seemed able to match Mocha move for move.
It looks to me like he got caught up in the teleportation spell.
Kiryu answered good-naturedly. Where did they go?
Her fist smashed a marble column to pieces as Kiryu only just ducked out of the way.
I knew fighting a vampire would be interesting.
He sounded very happy. I'll make you a deal, if you can beat me I'll tell you. And you better hurry, Hokuto will have to kill him before he can put his plan into action. Furious Mocha stepped up her attacks but Kiryu managed to stay just out of her reach.
Why? Hokuto demanded.
He transformed his entire body except for his head into a series of razor-sharp bones, changing his body into a hollowed-out 10-foot-tall monstrosity. He slammed the bones of his right arm down, they smashed the stone floor but completely missed Naruto.
Why are you interfering with me? You're not a monster, you're human.
Why should you care if this place is destroyed? Some of my best friends happen to be monsters, and I won't let them be hurt by this pointless war.
He ran through some hand signs. Kagebushin no Jutsu. Naruto had no idea where they were. Only that they were in a cavernous and darkened room.
Wind jutsus were of limited value in an enclosed space, but fire would work just fine. The 100 clones he made launched themselves at his opponent. He was not surprised to see that even in his bizarre new form Hokuto was able to move with blinding speed and to extend the bones all along his body. He hit the clones with ease and wiped them out quickly.
Whatever you do, I won't let you stop me. He again extended some his bones to only have Naruto easily leap away and avoid them. Tell me something, why are you so determined to do this? What will you get out of starting a war between human and monster? I'll get my revenge on this place. Hokuto said angrily. You see, I was a human, an ordinary human with no supernatural powers.
I came here by chance and because I wanted to get away from my abusive family.
I was stupid enough to believe that this school, so far away from everything, would give me a chance to start over. He let out a bitter laugh. But because I was so weak, I found myself suffering worse abuse than I ever had. I had to fight just to survive from day to day in this place. Then one day I finally realized that there was no place for me in this world or in the human one.
So, I decided to try and destroy them both.
Naruto actually nodded sympathetically. People abused you for no reason except that they could, and you wanted revenge. I can relate to that. Hell, if we'd met under different circumstances, I might have helped you. But that was before I found people I cared about, people I would die to protect. For their sake I'm going to stop you. He unleashed a massive fire from both hands. Hokuto dodged. Some of the fire clipped one of his legs, but he seemed not to notice. I won't let you stop me. I'll have my revenge no matter what. He raced in from the side and turned his left arm into a series of spears. They caught Naruto near his ribs and slammed him into the far wall. Though caught off guard for just a moment, he stood and ran up the side of the wall. He began running at Hokuto along the ceiling. And I won't let you hurt the people who matter to me. He raced through more hand signs. Grand fireball technique. Opening his mouth wide, he spat out a dozen huge boulders of fire. With the limited room, Hokuto could not dodge them all. One of the boulders caught his extended right leg at the knee. The bone buckled and melted beneath the extreme heat of the fireball. Hokuto cried out in pain as he stumbled and collapsed. All his speed and agility were now worthless as he had only one leg now. I've got you now. Naruto leapt down and tackled him. He wound up standing on Hokuto's bony chest, looking down into his still human face. It's over. Though defeated, Hokuto looked up at Naruto and began laughing. In his bony right hand, he held out the rosary he'd taken from the headmaster. Do you know what the power of this rosary is? You already said it would let you lower the barrier around the academy. True, Hokuto agreed. But you see, its basic power is to create or dissolve any seal or barrier. He pressed the rosary to Naruto's cloak. Naruto felt the power that was filling him just go, it drained away in an instant. The cloak and all of the Kyuubi's power simply left him. Before Naruto could even react, Hokuto's left hand transformed into a single massive blade. Hokuto drove it into and through the middle of Naruto's chest. You'll never be able to defeat me. Kyria mocked her as he again stayed one step ahead of her. Damn it, you coward. Stand and fight me if you dare. Why would I do that? Kyria asked, amused. I only have to keep you occupied. Meanwhile, your precious Naruto is fighting for his life somewhere. He was enjoying his battle against a fearsome vampire and thought he would be able to defeat her. That was when he suddenly slipped and went sliding across the floor. Ice? Why is the floor covered in ice? What have you done with Naruto? A woman's furious voice demanded. Kyria found himself ducking to avoid a set of razor-sharp claws. Kurumu flew past him and then rose into the air. She was looking murderous and ready to come at him again. Before he could move his legs to escape, they were surrounded by blocks of ice. Where is Naruto? Mizore demanded. If you've hurt him, you'll answer to all of us, Yukari said angrily. Before he could do anything to free himself, Moka was on him. Cowardly wretch. How dare you try and keep me from the one I love? Know your place. With a single ferocious kick, she slammed him into and through a wall. Moka hurried over to grab a hold of the now defeated Kyria. Even as she did so, she sent an angry glare at Kurumu, who was landing near her. What are you doing here, succubus? I asked her and Yukari to come help, Mizore said. I was stalking Naruto, and when I saw what was about to happen, I thought I should get them. Moka nodded grudgingly at Mizore. I thank you and I thank Yukari, she glared it back at Kurumu. Your help is not required. Kurumu puffed out her chest and stared straight back at her. I'm here to help Naruto whether you want me to or not. Is this really the time to be arguing? Mizore asked. Moka snarled a bit, but decided to let it go, for now. With a single hand she shook Kyria back and forth. Where did Hokuto take Naruto?
Tell me right now or I will start snapping off limbs. Kiryu opened his eyes and smiled at her.
Well, I guess you beat me, even though you needed some help. Where is Naruto?
She put her face dangerously close to his.
I will not ask you again.
Kiryu chuckled. I'll tell you, I said I would if you defeated me.
He is in the basement of the academy.
Mocha immediately threw him aside. I am going to him, you three keep an eye on Kiryu and get the headmaster and his guards to the infirmary. She gave none of them a chance to argue. She was surrounded by black fire and then gone.
Naruto felt the pain stab through him as the blood filled his mouth.
For what it is worth, I am sorry we had to be enemies.
Hokuto said. Me too. Naruto thought but could not say. The Kyuubi's power was completely gone, but not his own. With one swift clean motion he pulled out a kunai.
He surrounded it with his wind chakra. Then with an easy flick of his wrist he threw it. He took a certain satisfaction at Hokuto's look of surprise just before the kunai struck his forehead. Given they were only a few feet apart, there was no way for him to dodge. The kunai went through his forehead with a chop and out the back with a pop. Human brain matter splattered on the floor beneath him. As Hokuto's body twitched, his arm jerked out and Naruto pitched over to the floor next to him. He was in the middle of a slowly expanding pool of blood. Naruto coughed out the blood in his mouth and managed to struggle for breath. His body was already growing numb and he felt cold.
So, this is how I die? All alone in the dark?
Despite the pain, he managed a small chuckle.
Damn, villagers will probably throw a party when they find out.
He let out another rasping breath as the cold spread. I wish I could see Mocha one last time. And as though Kami had finally heard one of his prayers, she appeared.
Naruto.
He turned his head towards the sound of running feet. Mocha-chan, he whispered. As soon as she got to him, she knelt down beside him in his blood and pressed both her hands over his wound.
Naruto. You're bleeding. What happened to your healing ability? Why won't the blood stop?
It was strange hearing the adult Mocha sound so panicked. He reached up and took a hold of one of her hands. Mocha-chan, he called to her weakly.
Thank you for making me so happy and letting me know what love was.
Thank you for never leaving me alone, even now. She stared down at him. Do not say such foolish things, Naruto. He smiled up at her.
Somehow dying didn't seem so awful since he wasn't alone. Mocha, he needed to say it. I still love you. I could never stop.
Please, forgive me. It was hard to breathe now and things were getting dark. She could feel his pulse growing faint and knew there was only one way. She got a hold of him and pulled him up to her.
I will not let you go, my beloved. Take my blood and live.
She bit into his neck and injected her blood into him. Please live, Naruto, I cannot bear to lose you. His wound was deep and fatal and she knew he was very close to death. She was not sure that even vampire blood could pull him back. But she poured it into him, determined to give anything if it would save him. She soon began to feel weak and grew faint. She had given him all that she could. She released her hold and carefully set him back down. Please, live. She slid down on top of him and closed her eyes. She entered the darkness not knowing if she would ever see him again.
Chapter 30, Promise of a Lifetime.
She slowly opened her eyes.
It took her a moment to orient herself.
A rare exhaustion and sense of weakness permeated her body. Why do I feel so weak? In a flash the memory came back to her, him lying in a pool of his own blood, her fang marks still fresh on his neck.
Naruto.
She suddenly sat up in her small bed and looked about. She was in the infirmary again. And as before, she had woken up in the darkness. There was a folding chair next to her bed. It was empty. He wasn't there, she was alone.
Tossing aside the blankets, she got up. As soon as she did, her legs shook and threatened to buckle. Her entire body seemed fragile and cried out for rest. She ignored the way her knees seemed to wobble and moved shakily towards the door. She needed to find out what had happened. She stumbled forward, only to feel her legs begin to give out as she reached the door. The door opened, and light from the hallway flooded into her face. A familiar figure was standing there staring at her. Moka-chan. Naruto's arms grabbed hold of her before her legs could collapse. He pulled her close and held her tight against him. You're awake. Are you all right? How do you feel? She shut her eyes and pressed her face against the side of his. I feel weak, but now that I know you are alive, everything is fine. She breathed in his scent. It was him, it was definitely him, but there was something just a little different. There was something just a little off. She didn't care though, he was alive and he was here, that was enough for her. Are you all right, Naruto? Have you healed? I'm fine, Moka-chan, he whispered softly in her ear. Thanks to you. I am glad. Without thinking, she nuzzled his neck. Even with the slight difference, he still smelled wonderful, and she suddenly realized she was starved. Your scent, it is. No, I must not. Though she longed for the taste of his sweet blood, her memory of his near-fatal wound was still fresh. She did not want to injure him. Naruto seemed to sense the internal struggle and gently pressed the back of her head and bared his neck to her. It's all right, Moka-chan, he gently encouraged. Go ahead and drink. But... She wanted to argue, but her desire to taste his blood was overwhelming. It's all right, I really have healed completely. It's been 7 days, the sacrifice you made for me has left you exhausted. He smiled at her reassuringly. If my blood will help you, then please take it. She thought to argue, but with his words she gave in to her own hunger and bit down on him. She felt new strength flow into her with the familiar warmth of his blood. It was sweet, delicious, and she drank happily. But as with his scent, there was something just a little bit different. She could taste just the slightest bit of bitterness hidden beneath the sweet. It was not enough to take away her pleasure or ruin the taste, but it was there. She drank her fill and let go of him. She then looked into his eyes. Thank you, Naruto. No, thank you, Moka-chan. I wouldn't even be here now if you hadn't saved me. He leaned in just a bit and kissed her. She closed her eyes and felt her heart begin to pound. Everything is all right now. Wrapping her arms around his neck, she pressed his mouth down onto her greedy lips. Her hips began to slowly grind against him. She needed him. She needed to feel his body inside of hers. She hungered for his touch as she had for his blood. Take me, she panted. Her hands began to unbutton his shirt. Here? Here, now, on the floor or on the bed, I do not care which. She thrilled at the feel of his muscled chest beneath her fingertips. We're going to get caught. Even as he said that, he began moving her towards the small bed. He wanted her every bit as much as she did him. That was the end of any kind of resistance, as they both gave into their needs to express the love they shared. 3 days ago. He was sitting by her side watching her sleep. The doctor had assured him that she would make a full recovery. She merely needed to sleep until she restored her strength. He had been asked to leave and told he would be contacted the moment she woke up. His reply had been to go into three-tail mode and tell the doctor and the nursing staff that he was staying until she woke up. He had actually recovered very quickly. Moka's blood had repaired his wound and stabilized him. Hokuto's attack with the rosary had worn off after only a few hours, and he had regained access to the Kyuubi's power. Once that happened, he enjoyed a swift and full recovery. He wanted to use his power to heal her, but was ignorant of medical jutsus. The other possibility he didn't dare try, as he was not sure what the effect might be on a vampire. The door to Mocha's room opened and the headmaster walked in.
From his gait it seemed he was fully recovered.
"How are you doing this morning, Naruto?"
"Fine," he said wearily.
"Is there something I can do for you?"
The headmaster shook his head.
"Actually, I am here to fulfill our bargain. Antithesis is smashed and thanks to your actions a great many lives were undoubtedly saved." He held out a silver rosary with a blue gem in its center.
"As we agreed, so long as you wear this over your chest, the seal placed there will be ineffective. If any should try and activate it, you will feel a very slight pressure. That way, if you wish, you can act as though it were still in effect. Jiraiya or anyone else inspecting it will assume it to be still functioning."
"Thanks, that might actually be useful."
He took the rosary from him. "If you wish, I could also fully suppress the other seal as well."
Naruto looked at him in surprise. "You can do that?"
"Easily." Hokuto was an amateur, but he was able to fully seal the demon within you, if only temporarily.
"I could make the effect permanent. You would no longer have access to the demon's power, but the demon would no longer have any influence on your mind or personality." It was an offer he'd never expected.
"I wish I could have met you 8 years ago," he slowly shook his head.
"I have powerful enemies looking for me and my furry pal.
I doubt I could survive without the Kyuubi's power. Besides, I'll need it to fulfill my dream." The headmaster seemed to look at him with understanding and a little sadness. "You know, I had great hopes for Hokuto once.
He was a brilliant student and had tremendous potential.
Until his hatred poisoned him."
"Tell me, Naruto, is your dream anything like his was?"
Naruto looked at the man coldly. "With respect, my dream does not involve this academy or the world of monsters, so it's really none of your business."
I see, the headmaster sighed.
"It saddens me to hear that, Naruto, but you are right, it is none of my concern."
"Listen, since I've helped you, could I ask for a favor?" "What do you want?" "Could you keep my future progress a secret? It would help me out if you would stop reporting to the Hokage." To Naruto's disappointment, the headmaster shook his head.
"I gave my word to your Hokage and I must honor it, as I honored our agreement."
"I see, I guess it was too much to hope for that you would want to help me."
"I am in your debt for what you have done for this academy and all its students, but I will not go back on my word." When the doctor arrived for his morning rounds, he was relieved and pleased to see Mocha awake and alert. He was also slightly suspicious to see Naruto adjusting his clothing with a slightly panicked look on his face.
Mocha meanwhile had looked oddly amused.
"Well, you seem to have fully recovered, you are free to go."
"Great."
Naruto wasted no time lifting her up out of her bed. "I'll take her home then."
"But..."
Before the doctor could say anything else, the two of them were gone in a swirl of wind and leaves. The doctor was left to simply shake his head. "Young love," he said in an amused voice. When they materialized in her bedroom, Naruto had been just about to lay her down on the bed when Mocha held out a hand, stopping him.
"Just a moment, Naruto, please set me on my feet."
"Ha?
But don't you want to get back to it?" he said, pleading. She wore a slight grin. "There is something we must resolve first, please put me down."
Though disappointed, he did just as she asked.
"What's going on?"
"There is something that must be dealt with now." From out of her pocket she took out her rosary. For all of this time, the other Mocha has been consumed with sorrow.
"Now that you have admitted your love for us again, it is time for you to speak to her."
"I understand," he nodded.
"You're right, I do need to talk to her."
"Please be gentle." Mocha placed the rosary back on its chain. Her power leached away and her form became that of the younger Mocha. Unconscious, Naruto caught her and carefully held her until she opened her green eyes to look up at him. "Hey," he smiled at her. Her reaction caught him off guard. She pulled out of his grasp and turned her back to him.
"Naruto-kun. I am glad you are all right."
He was a little surprised and disappointed. He knew she was aware of everything the other Mocha knew. After what had happened, he'd expected her to grab hold of him and shower him with affection.
Aren't you happy to see me?
She turned around and looked at him in surprise.
Of course, I am. How can you even ask that? Well, you aren't exactly acting like it.
She looked down and felt ashamed.
Do you still hate looking at me?
She asked in a small voice.
The last time I was with you, you said you couldn't talk to me, you said when you looked at me you saw me naked with Jin.
His answer was to put his arms around her and pull her to him.
Please forgive me, Mocha-chan, he said to her in a caring voice. Please forgive me for being so cruel to you.
Even though I knew it wasn't your choice, I still blamed you. Even though I was hurting, I should never have said something so awful. He squeezed her tight.
I was hurt, and maybe I did hate you.
He could feel her try to pull away, but he held onto her.
But I was a fool.
I realize now that once I found out the truth, I shouldn't have taken my own pain out on you. Everything that happened before is forgiven. I love you with all of my heart, Mocha-chan. And I beg you to forgive me for hurting you. She looked up into his face, her eyes radiating hope.
Do you really mean that, Naruto-kun?
I do, every word of it. She kissed him, and with her kiss she granted him absolution from all his sins.
I forgive you, she pressed herself against him. All I want is to be with you. Let's never ever be apart again. Whatever happens, I want to be at your side. In that case, will you marry me?
She looked at him in shock.
Yes. Yes, I'll marry you. A rapturous kiss sealed the promise between them. I love you, Mocha-chan, and I swear to you we will never be apart again. That is my promise of a lifetime.
He began kissing her, and soon they were in her bed making love. Their hearts and souls joined together as one.
Neither of them would ever be alone again. Chapter 31, Festival Night. Do you want to see a magic trick?
Lying in bed beside him, she looked over and smiled.
Have you learned a new jutsu you want to show me? No, it's not a jutsu. It's something amazing I only discovered a couple days ago.
Now slightly curious, she nodded to him.
Go ahead. He grinned. Actually, I think I'll show you later, build up the suspense. I promise you'll be amazed.
He glanced at the clock on her nightstand.
You want to get something to eat?
She reached out and lovingly stroked the side of his neck.
No thanks, but maybe later.
Actually, I was thinking we should go meet the girls for lunch.
Don't wanna,
she giggled and playfully ran her hands over his chest. It's so comfy and warm right here. While you were asleep, all of the girls visited you, even Kurumu. At the mention of the succubus, Mocha frowned at him.
You sure she was visiting me? Maybe it was just an excuse for her to see you.
No, he said firmly. She was worried about you just like Yukari and Mizore were.
He took a deep breath.
I was sort of hoping all 5 of us could have lunch together. Mocha looked unhappy, but at least did not immediately reject the idea.
Why do you want her to sit with us?
Because she fought and put herself on the line to help us. She didn't have to do that, but she did. And I really think she is honestly sorry about what she did to you.
So, you want me to forgive her? I'd like it if we could all be friends again.
Mocha looked at him for a while before finally answering him in a low voice. I won't forgive her, and I won't ever be friends with her, but because you ask it, I'll agree to tolerate her. So, she can sit with us if you want.
Thank you, Mocha-chan, he said appreciatively. Maybe we can even all do something during the cultural festival tomorrow. The festival is tomorrow? Naruto nodded.
You've been asleep for a week, and before that the other Mocha had stopped going to class, so I guess it sort of snuck up on you.
But yeah, tomorrow is the start of the 3-day festival.
She reached out and took a hold of his hand.
You'll accompany me, right, Naruto?
I've always had to be alone on festival nights, and I've always wanted a companion to share everything with.
So, you'll be with me during the whole festival, right?
She sounded worried. Smiling, he leaned over to reassure her with a light kiss.
Of course, I will. You will never be alone again, Mocha-chan. Mocha! I missed you. A happy Yukari glomped onto her chest, getting a firm hold on her breasts.
You're so much nicer than the other Mocha was.
Mocha cried out and began flailing her arms about as Yukari laughed and continued to hold on.
Naruto shook his head and consoled himself with the thought that Yukari's arms would get tired, eventually.
He looked about the courtyard. Mizore? Yes? She popped her head out from behind a metal pole. Would you like to sit with us for lunch?
No, I'm fine where I am.
Before she could pop back behind the pole, he got a hold of her hand. Please, Mizore-chan? You're a friend and a very precious person to me. I'd like you to sit with us. Mocha and I also have some big news. Mizore glanced to where Mocha was still trying to shake Yukari loose. Since the pink-haired Mocha is back, I guess that means that you two have fixed things and are a couple again? Well, that's part of it, but there's more. Will you sit with us?
She shyly looked down to where his hand was holding hers.
Okay, she said bashfully.
She let him lead her by the hand over to the table. Eventually Yukari released her death grip and she and Mocha joined them at the table.
Yahoo, who is the sexiest girl in the academy? You are. Kurumu's fanboys enthusiastically cried out.
She was leading her followers past their table, careful not to look at them.
Kurumu? Naruto spoke in a normal voice.
She immediately halted and turned to him, giving him all of her attention.
Yes, Naruto-kun? Do you want to join us? Kurumu's eyes flashed from Naruto over to Mocha, who was right next to him.
Mocha gave the blue-haired girl the curtest of nods.
It's fine. Kurumu smiled happily and quickly came over to their table. I'd love to.
Seeing this sudden and dramatic change of heart, her many devotees cried out in anguish and some even made threats.
Kurumu rounded on them and they took a collective step back. I'm sorry, but I can't eat with you anymore.
And please don't cause Naruto any trouble. If he has to kill all of you, it might be a problem for him. The sullen crowd slowly dispersed as she sat down at the table.
They had all visited Mocha in the infirmary and spoken to Naruto.
They all knew what had happened, and since the younger Mocha was present, they all guessed it meant they were a couple again. But even knowing all this, the three girls were all taken by surprise when Naruto announced that he and Mocha were engaged to be married.
The three girls took the news in very different ways. Yukari was jumping for joy and asking them if she could be a bridesmaid.
Mizore sat there quietly and absorbed the information that Naruto was definitely out of her reach. She congratulated the couple and quietly continued to eat. Kurumu stared at them and tried to hold back her tears. She'd been happy when Naruto had asked her to join them. It was proof that he had finally forgiven her. And even though it was obvious that he was with Mocha again, she still had some hope for the future. But now she knew that there was no future with him.
He belonged to Mocha. Congratulations, Kurumu said and tried to mean it.
Even if she had lost him, she wanted Naruto to be happy.
Thank you, Kurumu-chan, and I want you to know that I want us to remain friends.
Naruto told her with the utmost kindness.
I'm sure you'll find someone who will be a much better match for you.
She smiled at him and did not reply.
Say, Naruto, Mizore said in an ordinary tone. Do you think I could ask a favor of you tomorrow?
Sure, what?
My mother is visiting and she sort of has the impression I have a boyfriend. Do you think you could spend the day with me pretending to be my boyfriend?
He stared at her.
You want me to tell your mom that I'm your boyfriend? That's right, would you mind?
My mom worries about me a lot and believing I have someone would help set her mind at ease.
It would mean a lot to me if you could just pretend for one day. Please? Well, No. Absolutely not. Mocha snapped.
She looked at Mizore angrily.
He just told you that he's my fiancé. How can you ask him to be your boyfriend?
I'm only asking him to pretend to be my boyfriend for just one day.
My mother will only be here tomorrow.
And it would mean so much to me to be able to show her I have someone to care for me.
Not all of us are as lucky as you are, Mocha. It's only for one day, is it really asking so much? Mocha looked very unhappy.
But Naruto-kun has already promised to spend the whole festival with me.
He looked over to Mocha and smiled. It's okay, Mocha-chan, I can do both. How? Mocha asked. Are you going to spend the day running around between us?
He smiled and ran through some hand signs.
Kagebushin no Jutsu. A perfect copy appeared standing right behind Mizore. It's really not a problem.
The real me will stay with you while my clones can stay with Mizore and her mom.
See? Mizore pointed out. So you don't mind, do you? Mocha was still frowning. Well, I guess so long as the real Naruto is with me it would be alright.
Good, Mizore said. And by the way, he may have to kiss me.
What? Mocha said. Who said anything about him kissing you? Mocha demanded.
I thought it was implied, Mizore said. I mean, boyfriends do kiss their girlfriends, and my mom might want to see it where she won't really believe he's my boyfriend.
Kurumu coughed and brought everyone's attention over to her.
I sort of need the same favor. My mom is coming here tomorrow too, and I sort of told her I had someone.
You don't need Naruto-kun for this.
You can pick any other boy at this school.
Mocha said coolly.
About that, I sort of told my mom that Naruto was mine and I really described him to her in detail.
Why would you do that? Mocha demanded.
He was never yours to begin with, and until just recently he didn't want anything to do with you.
Kurumu looked embarrassed.
I sort of left those details out.
Oh. I want my very own Naruto too.
Yukari said. My parents are coming to visit and I'd love for them to get to know the man who was going to be one of my future lovers. Mocha shut her eyes and rubbed her temples. She had sort of assumed that since Naruto was her fiancé, that meant she wouldn't have to share him. That night Naruto was in her room staring down at a bowl of partially burnt ramen.
Across from him Mocha was looking unhappy and annoyed. How did I agree to this?
It's not that big a deal really, I'll just be doing some favors for our friends. I mean they did all fight for us, so I think we owe them.
Naruto tried to pretend he was enjoying his meal.
I'll only be pretending after all, it's not like it will mean anything.
Does Kurumu know that?
He smiled at her.
If she doesn't, I'll remind her. You're the only one I love, Mocha-chan, and you're the one I'm going to always be with.
I care about the other girls, and they are important to me, but I don't love them.
She nodded. I know Naruto-kun, and you know I trust you.
But still, she shook her head.
How did I let Mizore talk me into saying it was okay to kiss?
After spending the night with her he shunned away early the next morning so that he could get ready and meet everyone as they had planned. For these 3 days the entire academy was transformed into a festival ground. All classes were cancelled as the different classes manned their various stands both inside and outside the building. There were cafes serving basic food and drink, games of chance, rides, and bands playing music for dancing. The festivities would begin at 10 in the morning and continue until 10 at night. Buses were returning alumni back to the academy from various locals in the human and monster worlds. The rules of the academy were still in effect and so both the students and alumni appeared in their human forms to enjoy the festivities. Since Naruto and Mocha were members of the police committee they were not required to work at any of the stands. Mizore, Kurumu, and Yukari were all scheduled to work the second day of the festival, so for today everyone was free to enjoy themselves. Naruto went outside a little before 10. The stands were already manned and open and the buses were starting to arrive to deposit the alumni who would be customers. The 4 girls were already waiting for him. Yukari, Mizore, and Kurumu were all dressed in their usual outfits. Moka had on a dark blue yukata with the image of stars designed into it. He looked at her and smiled. "That looks really good on you." She felt her face heat at his simple compliment. "Thank you, Naruto-kun." She came to his side and put her arm through his. "I am really looking forward to this." Kurumu looked at the two of them together and felt an ache in her heart. "Yahoo," she said in an excited voice. "So, let's have you make us our dates." Sure, he performed the hand signs. Kagebushin no Jutsu. 3 identical clones came into being beside each girl. Yahoo! Kurumu grabbed onto her Naruto's arm, pressing her chest against it. "Come on. Let's go meet my mom." Mizore shyly put her arm through his and then rested her head on his shoulder. Even though she knew it was only pretend, she was going to enjoy it. She led him towards the academy at a slow pace, happy just to be at his side. Yukari grabbed his hand and pulled him along. "Desu. You're buying me candy." The original Naruto and Moka remained in front of the boys' dorm and watched them go. "Even though they're clones, and even though I said it was okay, I still don't like seeing you with other women," Moka stated, looking a bit depressed. Seeing that, Naruto leaned over and whispered something in her ear. Her face went red. "Naruto." Seeing her embarrassed reaction, he laughed. "That is something I will only ever do with you, so don't be jealous." He gave her a quick kiss. "You are my one and only Moka-chan." Feeling better, she smiled and got them going down the road. "Come on, Naruto-kun, I want to do some goldfish scooping." Goldfish scooping? It was one of those silly games you only found at a festival. "Well, I never tried it before." She finally had someone to be with. She was eager to really enjoy the festival, and to spend every minute of it with her precious boy. There she is. Kurumu cried out happily. "Mama!" The Naruto who was with her knew immediately who it was Kurumu meant. A small crowd of admirers parted to reveal a stunningly beautiful woman with long blue hair, a cute short dress, a coat, and a purse. Her dress revealed not only some amazing legs but breasts that were even more ample and magnificent than Kurumu's. Kurumu eagerly brought Naruto up to meet her. "Mama, this is Naruto." "Naruto, this is my mom, Kurono Uchiha." Her mother eyed him speculatively for just a moment and then gave him a pleased smile. It's very nice to finally meet you, Naruto. I have been wanting to meet my daughter's fiancé since she told me about you." "Fiancé?" He looked over at Kurumu. She brought her hands together as though in prayer and mouthed the word, "Please." He sighed. "It's just for this one day." He gave Kurumu's mother a deep and respectful bow. "I am very pleased to meet you as well, Uchiha-san." Kurumu's mother laughed. "How cute. There's no need to be so formal." She grabbed his head and buried his face into her buxom chest. "Just call me cousin, after all you and my little girl will be getting married before too long." Unbelievable. She's even softer than Kurumu. But I can't believe she wants me to call her Mom. After she released him, Uchiha smiled down and whispered to him. "You know, I'm very happy that my little girl has found someone so experienced and with such stamina in the bedroom. From what she tells me, you're quite the lover." Naruto's face turned as red as a tomato as he thought he was going to choke. "Anyway, let's all go explore the festival." She wrapped herself around one of his arms, burying it in her soft bosom. "Yahoo, this will be a lot fun." Kurumu eagerly grabbed onto his other arm, expertly pressing her chest against it. So, with 2 gorgeous and full-chested women hanging onto him, he headed into the academy. "What are we doing here?" "We're here to meet my mom," Mizore replied calmly. They were standing all alone in the middle of some of the woods near where the buses were dropping people off.
Are you sure this is the right spot?
There's no one anywhere near this place.
Hello, mother. Mizore said.
And sure enough, a woman popped out from behind a tree not 10 yards away.
Hello, daughter. She was a lovely and elegant woman with the same purple hair and delicate pale skin Mizore had.
Her hair was up and she was dressed in a stylish dark gray kimono. She shyly approached them and gave Naruto a graceful bow.
Nice to meet you. I am Mizore's mother, Sarara.
You must be Naruto, my daughter speaks of you often. Naruto was relieved to see that Mizore's mother was such a gentle and cultured woman. He also found it kind of charming that she had a lollipop in her mouth just like Mizore always did.
He gave her a low bow. I am very pleased to meet you, Sarara-san. She nodded slightly. Please, just call me Sarara.
He was about to say something when Mizore jumped in front of him. Before he could ask, she got up on her toes and planted a soft kiss on his lips.
To say he was caught off guard wouldn't have covered it.
He'd have expected something this brazen from Kurumu, but not from shy little Mizore.
What was that?
He whispered to her. Sorry, she put her lollipop back in her mouth.
Just wanted my mom to see how in love I am with you. She spoke in a normal voice.
She looked at her mom as she again took a hold of his arm and put her head on his shoulder.
Please forgive me, mother, for my display. Naruto is very shy in public, and since we are alone right now. Sarara smiled demurely and nodded. That's all right, a young couple should be affectionate. So, when do you two intend to marry? Marry? It's still way too early for that, don't you think? A slight frown tugged down the edges of Sarara's lips. But you two are dating. Are you the sort of man who would be with a girl and not at least consider marriage? Without warning, the air around her solidified into jagged shards of ice. They grew and came to a sudden halt only inches from his throat. Instinctively, Naruto created fire in his hands and melted the ice. Not meaning to, he sent Sarara a hard look. Please don't do that again, he warned her. I don't like people threatening me. She was clearly surprised. My apologies, I have a bad habit of making sharp objects out of ice whenever I get emotional. I did not mean it as a threat. In that case, it's all right, he said. Sarara looked over at her daughter. You never mentioned he was a fire user. Naruto is a man of many different talents, Mizore replied. I see, Sarara smiled again. A fire user in love with a snow girl, well, that's very romantic. Shall we go take a look at the festival? Yukari had a huge candy sucker in one hand and was leading Naruto with the other. She led him up to a woman dressed in a black cloak with a pointy hat like Yukari's and to a man with glasses and a tweed sweater. Naruto, though the guy looked like a professor. The woman had a wand and the man held what looked like a spell book. Mom, Dad, this is Naruto. He's the one I gave that book to. He's also the one who gave me my very first adult kiss, and I plan to share his bed as soon as I get a little older. They were walking along in the middle of a crowd when Naruto stopped and seemed to wince. Is something wrong, Naruto-kun? I just got the memories from one of my clones. Yukari's mom smacked him over the head with her wand. Kagebushin no Jutsu. A new clone appeared. The clone turned to the original. Do I have to? Naruto was sympathetic but told him he did. I promised Yukari. With a look of resignation and doom, the clone headed off. How are the other clones doing? Mocha asked. I have no idea, I don't get their memories until they're dispelled. Naruto and Mocha continued to slowly explore all the different stalls. About 15 minutes later, Mocha let out an eek and jumped about a bit. What? What? Naruto asked. Someone grabbed my backside just now.
Naruto looked around, but there was no way to tell who in the vast crowd was the culprit. If I find out who did it, I'll beat the crap out of him.
Come on, Mocha-chan, let's not let this ruin things. Let's go do some goldfish scooping.
In the crowd, a tall bald man with tattoos watched the two of them head off. The girl was truly beautiful. He had come a long way to visit this festival and he was going to enjoy himself. And that meant he wanted a girl at least as beautiful as her. Her little boyfriend was unimportant, he'd get lost or get hurt. He began to trail after them, enjoying the hunt and waiting for his moment.
Oh boy, Naruto muttered. Mocha looked up from the goldfish scooping game.
She was having a lot of fun and had forgotten the earlier unpleasantness.
What is it?
Yukari told her parents about me spending most of my nights with you, and how we're all going to share a bed one day.
Kagebushin no Jutsu.
After goldfish scooping, they had tried a few other simple games and then gotten some cotton candy.
He came to a halt and sighed. Kagebushin no Jutsu.
His clone looked at him pleadingly.
You have to.
I know, the clone went with shoulders slumped.
Yukari again? Mocha took a bite of cotton candy and let it melt in her mouth. Yeah. What was it this time? She brought up that time Kurumo visited me in my room. Ah, Mocha blushed a bit. She could still remember her shock at hearing Kurumo utter the words, tied up and helpless.
Seeing her blush, he gave her a kiss. Nothing like that is going to happen with Kurumo today, especially not with her mom there. Of course, she relaxed.
Not even Kurumo is going to try anything with her mom around.
So, would you like to show me just how skilled you really are?
Uchiha asked.
Naruto looked at her.
I'm sorry, but skilled in what?
Love making, of course. She took both his hands and pressed him against her magnificent breasts. I'm curious to see if you really are as masterful as my daughter claims.
Oh, Cammy, this is not happening. Gah! They feel amazing.
He turned beet red and tried to choke out some sort of reply.
Mom! What are you doing? Kurumo demanded.
At least wait until we're somewhere private before you ask him something like that.
That was it, Naruto immediately fainted. Oh!
Mocha said excitedly and changed where they were headed.
Naruto-kun. Win me a prize.
She had always been envious of couples at a festival. She'd always wanted to have a boy win her something. The large stall had a vast herd of big stuffed plush toys hanging from their ceiling. In the middle of the stall about 5 feet away was a series of empty beer bottles. The student who was manning the stall smiled at them. He'd been the one to convince his homeroom to run a ring toss and it was a huge success. His fellow students had been worried at the cost of getting so many toys. Fortunately, he'd found a vendor who would allow them to be returned for a full refund. That meant so long as no one actually won the toys, everything they made was pure profit that the students got to share. The real trick had been to make the game seem very easy when it was actually excruciatingly hard.
The plastic rings were just barely larger than the necks of the empty bottles. While it seemed easy enough, it actually required a great deal of skill.
Many boys had already stopped by determined to win something for their dates, only to walk away with nothing but an empty wallet. The vendor gave Naruto a big smile.
Win something for the beautiful lady?
You get 5 rings for just 100 yen.
Put any of the rings on a bottle and you win your choice of prize. Alright, Naruto opened up Gamakan and dug out a coin.
The vendor handed him 5 plastic rings.
Good luck.
With a bare flick of his wrist, he tossed the rings.
Clink, 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 clink.
The vendor stood there with his jaw open.
How the hell did you get all 5?
Naruto just shrugged. For someone who could hit a bullseye with a kunai at 20 yards while running, this was literally child's play. I'm a ninja, was how he explained it.
Yay! Mocha jumped up and down and applauded.
The vendor closed his mouth and reminded himself that handing out one toy was no big deal.
What would you like? That one. She eagerly pointed at a cute bright red fox. She then reached over and ran her fingers over her fiancé's cheeks. I just think foxes are too cute.
The vendor was relieved to see Naruto go and hoped not to see him again for the rest of the festival. So, he was rather disconcerted when he showed up 10 minutes later. This time there was a different girl on his arm. She had purple hair and a lollipop in her mouth. Trailing slightly behind the couple was a woman who had to be the girl's mother.
This looks interesting, Naruto said. Would you like me to win you something? Mizore nodded. Sure.
Naruto looked at the vendor. How do you play? The vendor looked back at him.
You're kidding, right? Ha! The vendor let out a sigh.
Obviously, this guy was some sort of player and didn't want his current girl to know he'd already been by. He really wanted to tell him to go away, but if he refused a customer he would get in trouble.
So, he played along.
You get 5 rings for 100 yen. If you can put a ring on one of the bottles you get your choice of prize.
Naruto nodded and produced a coin.
The vendor handed him 5 plastic rings.
Clink, 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 clink. Amazing, the vendor said dryly.
Looking a little embarrassed, Naruto just shrugged.
I'm a ninja. Right. Right, the vendor looked at Mizore. Which one would you like?
That one, she pointed at a penguin.
Naruto turned to look at Mizore's mother. Would you like a souvenir, Tsurara? Mizore's mother smiled and nodded. That would be lovely, thank you, Naruto. He handed the vendor another coin. 5 more, please. Clink, 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 clink. 20 minutes later.
Yahoo, Naruto-kun, win me some prizes.
Oh, come on.
The annoyed vendor muttered to himself. He gave Naruto a smile that was not very friendly. You're a popular guy tonight. Naruto grinned and rubbed the back of his head.
Yeah, I guess I am.
He did have 2 beautiful women with him after all.
So how do you play?
The vendor sighed. You get 5 rings for 100 yen. If any of the rings land on a bottle you get your choice of prize. Sounds fun. He handed the man a coin and was given 5 plastic rings.
Clink, 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 clink.
Yahoo, Naruto-kun, you really are the best. I want that big stuffed rabbit. Uchiha leaned over and whispered in his ear while pressing her breasts into his back and sending a shiver down his spine.
Will you win something for me too, Naruto-kun? Sure, he got out another coin. Clink, 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 clink.
Quite amazing, the vendor said with a lack of enthusiasm.
Naruto gave an embarrassed shrug. I'm a ninja. So, I hear. An hour later. Clink, 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 clink. All right.
An excited Yukari was jumping up and down. She already had 4 stuffed toys in her grip.
I'll get the kitty this time.
A weary vendor pulled down a stuffed cat and handed it to the girl.
All right, Yukari, I think that's enough, her mother said.
She had a giant stuffed zebra under her arm.
But Mom, I want enough of them to fill my room. Naruto looked over at her mom with an embarrassed grin.
After all the misunderstandings, he was eager to try and make a good impression any way he could. I don't mind, I'm happy to get her as many as she wants. The woman nodded a bit frostily. I appreciate that, but there's no need to spoil her too much. And besides, let's leave some for all the other people here.
Thank you.
The vendor said with real feeling. Naruto looked at him with an embarrassed grin and shrugged.
Sorry about all this, I'm a ninja, I know.
Once they left, the vendor shut the stand down. He closed it just long enough to make a sign.
No ninja allowed. The rest of the day passed without major incident for Naruto or his clones. Thank you for a wonderful day, Sarara said to him. I am very happy to know that my daughter has someone like you to watch out for her. She looked at her daughter. You're right, he's a wonderful person. I like him too. Goodbye, daughter. Goodbye, Naruto. Goodbye, mother. Bye, it was really nice meeting you. They watched her go. It was now early evening and the nighttime crowd buzzed around them. He looked at Mizore. How'd I do? She smiled up at him shyly. You were the perfect boyfriend. She took her lollipop out of her mouth and gave him a light kiss on his cheek. Thank you. You're welcome, Mizore-chan. Well, since your mama's gone now, I guess I may as well go too. Do you have to? She asked. Do you mind staying a while longer? I want this night to last as long as possible. He looked at her and smiled. I think I can do that. That was a very nice dinner. Thank you for treating us, Naruto, and thank you for your delightful company. Uchiha told him. It was my pleasure. She turned to her daughter. Kurumu dear, do you mind if I have a private talk with him before I go? Kurumu looked nervous. You're not going to ask him to do anything naughty, are you? She smiled. Not this time, I promise. All right, Mama, she gave her mom a big hug. Have a safe trip. You take care of yourself, dear. She turned to Naruto. Please walk me to my bus. Naruto nodded and accompanied her, feeling very nervous. Uchiha waited until they were well out of earshot before speaking. Succubi had great hearing. You don't actually love her, do you? What? No, It's all right, Uchiha assured him. I can tell these things. I can see you honestly care for my daughter, but that the feelings you have for her aren't love. I'm very sorry. I apologize for deceiving you. She laughed. Silly boy, you didn't deceive me and you have nothing to apologize for. You care enough about my daughter to spend the whole day trying to take care of her and me. That alone makes me very happy. And so you know, she knows that what you feel for her isn't love. Uchiha sighed. You should also know my daughter loves you. I know, she calls me her destined one. Uchiha stopped and Naruto did as well. Do you know what those words mean? Do you know what it means for a succubus to tell man that he is her destined one? He nodded. It means she wants to be with me. No, it means much more than that. I have seduced hundreds of men. I have made men give up their fortunes and their families just to be with me for a night. Some of them I liked, most I felt nothing for, and some I actively despised. Uchiha told him. But not one of them mattered to me. They were all just puppets for my amusement. I have loved one man, Kurumu's father, my destined one. For him I would have walked through fire. He died some years ago. I have loved no other man, and I will love no other man until my dying day. Humans often mistake love and lust, but we succubi know the difference. We know that to inspire lust is easy, but to inspire true love is perhaps the hardest thing that any woman can try to do. You have created love in my daughter's heart. I ask you to stay with her in hopes that in time she will also create love in yours. That might happen, he answered carefully. But if it doesn't, I'm sure she will find someone else to love. You don't understand. Uchiha shook her head. Do not think because we inspire lust that our hearts are cruel. We are expert at keeping our hearts hidden, but once it is found, a succubi's heart is very tender. Each of us will love only one man in our lifetimes. We have a single destined one and no other. You are her destined one, Naruto. If you do not choose her, she will never love another man, she will never have a family, she will be alone. What? But she's only 16. That's crazy. That is our way. He looked at her angrily. So, you're saying that if I don't choose her, she's going to end up alone and it'll be my fault? Yes. You can't ask something like that. You can't ask me to fall in love with her just because she chose me. It's not fair. No, it's not, Uchiha said sadly. And it's most unfair to her. I know I am asking a lot, but please just give her time and I know she will win your love eventually. She leaned forward and gave him a kiss on his cheek. I know I will see you again, Naruto. I can tell you are a good man and I know you will do the right thing. Naruto stood there and watched her get on her bus. It was almost 10 and he and Mocha were on one of the academy rooftops. Mocha was holding her new toy fox, which she had named Naruto, of course. He was standing behind her as they were looking down on the thinning crowd. The first night was winding down. Did you have a good time, Mocha-chan? She sighed happily. Wonderful, it was truly wonderful, Naruto-kun. It was what I always hoped it would be like. Well, I hope the next 2 nights go as well. They both turned around at the sudden crash behind them. A powerful and fierce-looking man stepped out of the broken doorway. There you are. He looked at Mocha and licked his lips. I've been waiting all night to get you alone. He glanced at Naruto. If you want to live you should run now. Mocha and Naruto both looked at one another and began to laugh. What's so damn funny? Naruto just shook his head. Do you want to take care of him or should I? You can go ahead, Naruto-kun, but please don't kill him. Hey! This actually works out great, I can show you that magic trick I told you about. The intruder eyed him with disgust and mounting anger. You really think you can deal with me? Naruto simply smiled at him. Want to see something really scary? Suddenly he was surrounded by a powerful demonic aura. As both the intruder and Mocha watched, his body began to change. He grew a couple inches and his muscles seemed to thicken some. His hair grew out a bit and lightened to a platinum blonde. The scars on his cheeks seemed to fade and then disappear. His eyes became red and slitted and a pair of fangs extended out of his mouth. Witnessing this sudden change and feeling the immense power coming from him, the man began to back away. What are you? Naruto moved with incredible speed and hit him with just one punch. It sent him flying clean through the protective fence and off the roof. With that dealt with, he calmly turned back to his girl. The toy fox slipped out of her hands as she stared at him. Naruto-kun, she whispered. You're a vampire, he said happily. That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfiction. Looking forward to having you on board again.